Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Super Bowl Game Saturday on a Friday. So it's Super Bowl Game almost Saturday, and at the rate we're going to be going with tonight's show, we might not hit Saturday before we're done with what we got. Okay, tonight we are, it's going to be our last Friday show, by the way, for a little bit of time. But for tonight, we are going to be doing the viewer quest for this month, or I guess one of the viewer quests. We kind of have one next week as well, which will be on Saturdays we usually have. Because, yeah, we love our best chat on Twitch. That's the idea of what goes on as far as the show. So I said, what am I going to do as far as what people want to see? Well, as I realized, we haven't touched Sonic the Hedgehog in a little bit of time. We looked at Shadow the Hedgehog again a couple months ago using the original Xbox. I do have the original Xbox up for Sonic Mega Collection Plus. We've shown this a couple times on the show for certain cases. Although tonight we're going to be using it not for what we're playing, but because I want to explain something as far as what we're playing. This game, as far as what we're going to be running tonight, it came on the request of Electverse, part of our best chat on Twitch. And since it's 35 years of Sonic the Hedgehog, I said, let's take a look at a game as far as them, or actually more than one is going to turn out. But I also said I want to go deep as far as it. As the game I played when I was growing up, when it came out about 30 years ago, one that's not seen as having a great reputation, but Electverse said, hey, you know what? I do kind of have a soft spot for this, and I gotta be honest, I don't think it's that bad a game either. So I said, let's give it a look. Although, as I mentioned, I booted this up because we're gonna look at the instruction manual for this, and for one other game I got set for this. But tonight we're gonna be playing Sonic Labyrinth. Yeah, it came out in October of 1995 in the United Kingdom, and then in, in the US. Oh no, it was the UK. Okay, I knew I took the notes as far as this. The rest of Europe was November of 1995, and also in the US for us. And in Japan, it came out on November 17th of 1995 for the Sega Game Gear, their portable unit. Played a couple games off of this before. All of it's been Sonic. And the reason for that is because I don't have a whole lot of stuff as far as Game Gear's games emulating collections that are not Sonic. In fact, I think it was only with the release of the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection last year where I have another one, that being Mortal Kombat, the original from Game Gear. But it's kind of what we're seeing on the screen, Sonic 3D Blast, as far as going through the scissor reel of Sonic Mega Collection Plus, which is on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and PC. We're on the Xbox version. But it is kind of like this in the sense of an isometric, sorta, well, not a platformer. It's an isometric game where Sonic's looking around the area, but he's not moving fast. And that's on the basis of the story. So I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pull out this collection to show off the manual for this. And you're probably wondering, it's in this collection, right? Yeah, it is. Sonic Labyrinth is in this. But you're probably wondering, why don't we just use this to play it? Well, because there are flashing light warnings pretty heavy on this game. On Game Gear there were as well. And this collection there is. So I said, you know what? Do I have another version that's at least as well emulated that doesn't have that or cuts it down? And I do. That being Sonic Origins Plus, which I have the Switch version. I'm going to swap off to that. But to start, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the digital manual because Sonic Mega Collection Plus is a really nice collection. It has a bunch of old Sonic games and a couple that are not Sonic specifically, but cases where they have the manuals for everything. So we can take a look at that and go into that briefly. And for this game, I think it's necessary to talk about that. So alright, yeah, we're going to load this. As I mentioned, I have the Xbox version. It's on the PS2 where it has some issues with sound emulation as far as this collection. And it's on the PC, which I think is about the same. It's not exactly the same as Sonic Mega Collection on the GameCube, and unlike that one, you do have 6 Game Gear games in this, just to briefly reiterate that. You have Sonic the Hedgehog 1 from Game Gear, Sonic Labyrinth, Sonic Drift 1, Sonic Chaos, Sonic Blast, and the Game Gear version of Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and I think, although I'm not sure, that the Ooze and Comic Zone were not in Mega Collection on the GameCube, at least I don't think they were. If that's wrong, I'll indicate down, no, they were. I know Rystar was. Yeah, I also remember because I had to go through the unlock process in this collection, which I love this collection, but the unlock process is a pain in the ass because you have to go through every single one of these games, every single one of these games. You have to play them, as the game says, a certain number of times, and what that means, you have to open it and close it. Basically, wait till it gets to the Sega screen, then close it, then go out to the menu here, then come back into the game screen and says, oh, by the way, this unlocked. Although there is an easy way to get the Ooze and Comic Zone. If you have a save file for Sonic Heroes on either your PlayStation 2, your Xbox, and I guess the PC version does this, because Sonic Heroes is on the PC as well, you unlock these two right away. Otherwise, the unlock process of that is crazy. But anyway, I booted this up because unlike Sonic Origins Plus, that has manuals for the games that are frontlining it, or headlining it, I should say. But when they added all of the Game Gear games later, it was something where they didn't have the manuals for those. So I said, okay, we're going to take a look at the manuals here. They have it for every game that's in this, and they said, we're going to talk about Sonic Labyrinth because you probably, if you're familiar with this game, you know it's the Sonic game where Sonic doesn't go fast. And sometimes the question, like, why is that? And who would want to make a game like that? To which I say, I love Tails Adventure for Game Gear. That's not exactly a fast Sonic game either, and Sonic isn't in it. It's apparently prequel to all the other Sonic games, so the Japanese continuity goes into. But, I mean, maybe it had an idea, and that's often the case when it came to all of the Game Gear Sonic games. They weren't as fast as the Sega Genesis games. Understandably so, because of the way the Game Gear was an 8-bit device. Kind of like the Sega Master System in miniature. But as far as that, they came up, I guess they figured, well, alright, if we can't do that, let's try and either chase it a little, like with Sonic Chaos, which you played on the show, or try to replicate in some way that maybe it's not going to be that much of an issue either way, like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. That's a puzzle game, so it's a spin-off. And on Game Gear, it has a mode for puzzle, or puzzle mode that's exclusive to it. So I guess they figured, well, we can kind of switch it around for things, and that's what they did with Sonic Labyrinth right here. So here it is. This is what it looked like when you bought it in the US on Game Gear. I did used to have this game. It is one of only 2 games that I'm aware of that I lost. I usually hold on my games like a hawk, but for some reason this one went missing, as did Metroid Zero Mission. And Metroid Zero Mission, that killed me when I lost that. And then when the Wii U Virtual Console got it, I said, I gotta buy this, because I was like, oh, I'll go buy a copy of this. It's not gonna cost much money. That game's $80, so I was like, okay, I gotta go get it, which I did. This one, not as much. I think there's like $15, $20, and it's been collected a bunch of places. It has been collected in particular in this, of course. It also is in Sonic Adventure DX on GameCube. It is in, it was on the Virtual Console on 3DS. It is in Sonic Origins Plus, which we're gonna show. It's on Game Gear itself. And, yeah, you're seeing here, it's Sonic rolling around spinning. I was like, hey, that looks kind of fun. What's this about? But also, why is Sonic going slower? I want to explain this before we play the game. So, alright, we've not started playing the game, but don't worry. We'll just give this a little bit of a case. But we always love reading the manuals, I do at least, and kind of showing everybody that. So, Sonic slows down. It's the question of, wait, how does he slow down? But before I go into that briefly, I do want to mention the team that made this. It was Sega who published it. It was developed by a company called Minato Giken. That was made of ex-workers of Arc System Works, or Arc Company as they were known at the time. They were still in business, or actually started back then. The team that made BlazBlue Calamity Trigger, which we're playing next week, by the way, for our scoping session. And also who made Sonic Drift 1 and 2 for Game Gear, which actually Alekfors indicated to me. I did not know that until he mentioned. And it was, the company was started by the co-programmer of this, that being Kenichi Iwanaga. He was the programmer of Hanny on the Road for the PC Engine, as well as Pizza Pop, which is on Famicom, and apparently does a Switch port. I did not know it did. He also was involved programming Dynamite Headdy for Game Gear, as well as Baku Baku Animal, also the Game Gear version of that, as well as Yu Yu Hakusho Horobishi Mono no Gyakushu, which is, I think, the same team who made as this one. It's worth pointing out also, a lot of people who worked on this company, I should say, including the director of Noboru Machida, worked also either they were at Arc System Works. They also worked at Sims, the team behind of what we played, Shadow Dancer, The Secret of Shinobi, but also made some other stuff like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie for the Game Gear and the Sega Genesis, and the Dreamcast port of Sega Bass Fishing. Yeah, but Noboru Machida did the direction on this. He directed Baku Baku Animal for the Game Gear, as well as Kaido Saint Tail, also on Game Gear, as well as Double Hawk on the Sega Master System, and he was the producer of the Mega CD version of Shin Megami Tensei, as well as Stellar Assault SS for the Sega Saturn, Charging Blast for the Dreamcast. He was the executive producer of Outrun 2018 for the Sega Genesis and the Wii version of Sega Bass Fishing, as is. And I'll go on, and also it was co-directed by Hideki Katagiri, who directed Ape Escape on the Loose for the PSP. That's the remake of Ape Escape from the PlayStation 1 that they put on the portable device. And also co-directed Sega Worldwide Soccer 98 for the Sega Saturn, Tempo Jr. for the Game Gear, which is a spin-off of a 32X platforming game. And he also produced Charge and Blast for the Dreamcast, and also Resident Evil Survivor 2 Code Veronica. That is the sequel to Resident Evil Survivor from the PlayStation that only came out in Japan and Europe. I actually played it because I was over in the UK back in 2011. Someone I knew had it. I was like, wait, I never knew this game was out. Like, you have it, I want to play this. It's basically taking Resident Evil Code Veronica and it's saying, hey, let's do like a sort of first-person shooting case. It's kind of awkward, but it was kind of interesting looking at that and saying, okay, this is the idea of what that was. And I'll go with the stuff on the music on the game when I boot it. But yeah, here's the deal as far as the story. Wondering why is Sonic going slow now in what I'm going to say. People sometimes say this is the stupidest plan that Robotnik has ever had. It is, but it's also the smartest one he's had at the same time. If you're confused, the manual will tell you why. Because as you zoom in, this was back in the days when you had to read the instruction manual for the story. Get used to that when we look at Snowbird Kids next month. I'm going to not be able to have the manual up until I edit for that one. But that one is also a case where the story's only in that. So, alone in his egg-shaped headquarters, the diabolical Dr. Robotnik, the artist formerly known, or also known as Dr. Eggman, paced and pondered. There has to be a way to defeat that pesky Sonic the Hedgehog. No matter what I try, I always manage to outrun my traps. But Robotnik, remember, canonically, he does have an IQ of 300, but he is always thwarted by Sonic. He says, wait a minute. He outruns my traps. Fair idea, because remember, the idea is Sonic is really fast, and Robotnik says, like, okay, if he outruns my traps, that's it. Although, if you play some of the other Sonic games, particularly Sonic 1, 2, and Sonic 3, and Sonic Knuckles, at this juncture, at the end of the game, Sonic outruns, or is outran by Robotnik at the end of the game for the purpose of story. People always say, like, Robotnik's the fastest character in this game. And even when you go in the Chow Garden in Sonic Adventure 2, they kind of indicate that, yeah, he can move really fast when he comes out of the Egg Walker. But anyway, he says, like, okay, if he outruns my traps, he uses fantastic speed to defeat my minions, but what if I take his speed away? Smart. So that is not a bad thought, saying that if he keeps outrunning my traps and his speed is the catalyst to that, why don't we take it away? So he's like, okay, I create a pair of harmless-looking boots that would slow down the running speed of any creature that wears them. So then Dr. Robotnik commanded one of his robots to sneak into Sonic's home and swap his sneakers with the boots. So, according to this, and also according to Sonic and the Secret Rings for the Wii, Sonic has a house. Robotnik said to one of his robots, go and drop this down as far as these boots, these slowdown boots. But it's not like, Austin Powers, remember Scott Evil, he says, like, what are you doing? Why don't you just kill him? Or it's like he says, like, why does Austin Powers always ruin our plans? Because you never kill him and get the chance to him because you're a big dope. Well, I guess that's the thought, like, I guess he could say, well, why don't you go and kill him? But I guess Robotnik maybe doesn't want to kill him, even though a lot of his Egg-O-Matic machines can kill Sonic. And there's one game, by the way, celebrating 20 years of itself, that has Sonic dying, but not by Robotnik's hands. I'll see if we can get to that. But anyway, next morning, Sonic decided to put the boots on without noticing anything different, but then he started to run out the door, and his feet were stuck to the ground. He barely run. He tried pulling the boots off, but they wouldn't come off. And then he heard Robotnik laughing outside the window, so I guess he was sitting outside in the bushes, I guess, waiting for him to wake up, as far as how it's going. Like, how do you like my new invention, Sonic? The only thing to deactivate those boots is the power of the Chaos Emeralds, and they're mine. So basically, I took the Chaos Emeralds, so now if you want to get them, go through my Super Labyrinth, and you can't stay there long because it's on time limit. Without your famous speed, you'll never catch me. So Sonic said, uh-oh, that's not good. But even though these boots keep my feet from moving fast, I have the spin dash, so I can still use that. So that's how he's going to be able to get going for speed. He's like, alright, I'm going to come after you. So fair enough as far as that. So, and it's also one thing pointing out, I remember I was talking to Ultra94T, who might be a bigger Sonic fan than even I am. He said, this story pretty much is a case of saying, well, is it the case that the shoes make Sonic fast? And I guess that's the inference in this, or I don't know if maybe it's a case where the shoes don't make him fast, which has since been confirmed as far as the franchise. And the idea is that when he puts these shoes on, this is what did it. And it is worth pointing out, actually, at the time, the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog also went into this and saying that, hey, Sonic's shoes were going to be stolen in one of the Sonic Says segments. And when it came to that, the thought that, you know what, that controls his speed, but it was like, no, it doesn't control his speed. That's not the idea of what it is. So you could read that through this game. Or you could say, like, alright, whatever. The boots are just what caused it. But alright, that is why we are going to be going around, and why we have a different, and here is the Sega Game Gear, just to give a sense. By the way, you use the left and right triggers to zoom in and out. So there it is. That is the old device I used to have, or I do have it. It's broken. Its capacitors died, and they do go bad after some time. I could look into replacing them. And I'm trying to figure out what we can do as far as Game Gear on the show native. of which I think the best option, and this is going to be probably a too many games thing, is going to be getting a Retron 5, and there's an adapter that goes with it that has Game Gear. My only concern is that there is apparently issues when it comes to running certain games where they don't look correct. I don't know if it's a case where that's been fixed over the years, because mainly the Retron 5 is a pretty old device. I know there was a sort of newer device a couple years ago that was maybe something better, but I don't know if there's something else. And since I have stuff on Game Gear, I don't want it to go to waste. I've sometimes said before, like, I won't emulate in the show unless we'd have no opportunity to do it, or it's a case where, we'd otherwise not be able to show it. I mentioned Carnival from Midway for the arcade. We have to emulate that. We do not have a choice. That's the only way to go, because no console version of that, and we have to run that through MAME. But as I said, I have some of the stuff on Game Gear, not this one, but there's other things I have, and stuff that's not Sonic. So, assuming that we don't get re-releases of some of these things, and I guess at this point we're at a golden age when it comes to those re-releases, we get stuff where, oh my god, you're getting re-releases of things you never thought you'd get. I mean, for God's sake, the Virtual Boy's coming back next week. The device is shipped for me. I'm going to be getting it next week, so we'll have that going on, I guess, to the show. I got to figure that out, saying, how can I show you the Virtual Boy stuff? I'd love to, and I'll figure how that goes. But that being said, that is the case of the Game Gear, and I'm figuring that. But it also says, like, okay, what's going on? Your aspects of controls again a little later. Sonic moving as far as how he goes. Picking up the keys. That's what we have to do in this game. Let's pick up keys and go around and also get to those power-ups in the squares. We're pointing out, this is the reason why we're using Sonic Origins Plus for this, is because when you get those on this collection on the Game Gear, the screen flashes like crazy. So I said, it's too much. They slowed down the flashing on the Origins Plus version, and the 3DS Virtual Console port also did this, of that game and every other Game Gear Sonic game that came out for that, which was all of them. Or, I think they all came out on 3DS Virtual Console. But anyway, that's where we're going to use that, but this is the manual, so I don't want to show that, and it shows the idea of everywhere we're going to go, and also what's going to go on with Game Over Continue. Like, yes, Sonic's locked in jail. I guess I could show him getting Game Over later, but I'm going to try not to. This game is also really short, so if I play my cards right, I could have gotten through about half of it by now with me talking, but I said, let's go this way. And we'll also show the time attack mode. We'll show off the extra, the extra bonus stage, which you have to beat the game normally to do, but I did beat this game off-screen a couple times, actually over the past few months. That was my first time ever beating it, even though I played this game for 30 years. And we're going to that. Yeah, you get the hint, by the way, if you beat the game without getting to this bonus stage, but you have to go to that bonus stage in order to get the best ending. We're going to get the best ending, but I'll show you the pictures I took for Switch, indicating what the not best ending is. But because it's so short, I said, well, I think we should show something else off, and since about 5 years ago, we celebrated 30 years of Sonic the Hedgehog. One of those games you looked at was the Game Gear version of the first, and I had some audio problems when we did that show, the case where the mic kind of whistled weird. One of my laptops, or the PC I was using back then, which was ancient tech, it was doing this weird whistle when you put the cable for the mic in one of the USB slots and only one of them. I don't know why it did that, but I noticed that consistency with other shows where I put it there, and I said, okay, when I realized that, I said, we gotta swap that so it doesn't happen, which it didn't. And my last PC ran into a case where we'd have cases where the audio went garbled as far as the mic every so often. I gotta try the new mic, or the older, newer mic, as is that I got last year, to see if maybe that fixes on this, because we never had problems with this, but God forbid we do. We'll have to figure something for that. But anyway, I said, well, let's take a look at Sonic the Hedgehog 1 from Game Gear, because it's not going to be long either. And I'll basically, in a way, this is going to be a bit of a second chance. So I'm giving you a little bit of a bonus. We're going to do the game like first one to see, and get a sense of, how is it? I mean, I think it's better than its reputation. People don't hate this game, or hate Labyrinth. They don't hate this one. Some people actually like this one way more than Sonic the Hedgehog for Sega Genesis. And some say that Sonic the Hedgehog on Genesis was never a good game to begin with. Or people saying, oh, it's too slow compared to the later ones. Or saying, oh, I like the fact that it's slower and more deliberate than that. And this is much more deliberate, because it is something like the original. And seeing this is the perspective of the manual, and it's mostly the same as far as how the element of this manual is worded, as far as how it goes. The idea of Dr. Ivor Robotnik saying that, you're being Sonic and being atomic. But we're not going to the same places. We're getting the Chaos Emeralds off of the ground. And we're going to mostly new places that mostly do not have the same music. So yeah, they take a couple of the songs from Masato Nakamura from the original Sega Genesis game, but all the other ones are brand new by someone very famous in the video game music world. We'll talk about him again in a little bit. And that's also where you continue as far as the special stage. But you do have all the same enemies still, but they're definitely 8-bitified. I'll go on that as it is. So, with that, I just said I want to give a perspective of the manuals, and I guess at that point I'll also timestamp the show when I edit it next week. So that it basically shows that, okay, the good evening, ladies and gentlemen, which we always do whenever I do a chapter segment, and then also showing the manuals and having, like, the sort of opening spiel, and also appreciating the Sonic Mega Collection Plus as far as how this looks, and the great intro for that. And we can definitely come back to this for certain things, as far as it, because I know there's a couple games that we have shown through this where also had questionable audio. Sonic 1 on Genesis actually being one of those. And actually, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. That was the first time I ever used the Samsung G-Track Pro. That was 5 years ago. God, I can't believe it's been that long. But either way, I said I had it too loud. I wasn't doing the audio checks for everything. It was after that showing something else. I said, wait, I gotta check this before I go live. Because some of that didn't sound right. It's a case where the game was being drowned out by me and vice versa. So, alright, I gotta figure what that's all about. But yeah, we've come so far, and Sonic's come so far as 35 years of himself. And unlike we played the last case of Game Gear with Sonic, that being Sonic Hedgehog Chaos, Sonic is in a pretty good place for himself, generally speaking now, in terms of the fact that the games are definitely going pretty well. Sonic Racing Crossworlds came out, and it undersold, so Sega said, selling 1 million units across in nearly 5 versions, so maybe that's a question of like, wait, that we expected to sell more across multiple systems. And also they're saying that Sonic, was it Rumble? The one that's by, basically the Fall Guys knockoff by Rovio, the people who made Angry Birds, because Sega purchased the Angry Birds team of Rovio for some reason. And, like, why bother? Angry Birds is an ancient thing. Not that it's a case where it's like, we don't show up for the show. I think we should. It's important enough a game we probably should. With one of the console versions, the case that Sega kind of got on that one late and hasn't really had a big return of themselves as it is. And apparently that didn't either, but it's not a case now, it seems, where Sega is saying, well, you know, we're going to just put anything with Sonic out and people buy it no matter what. Which, I mean, I guess they were really spooked, and rightly so, when Sonic Superstars did not sell well for them, and didn't deserve to, because I hate that game. At some point, we'll reckon with that. But Sonic is kind of in a good place, and they say we're going to have some stuff going on for the 35th anniversary this year. We'll see what that's going to be. Maybe it's a new game as far as something. Maybe it's going to be like a new 2D return. Maybe a new 3D return, because people really like Sonic Frontiers. And when I played of it, I liked it. Although, in all honesty, I've not played it as much as you'd think. You'd think, like, oh, I'd played it a lot. It's like, no, not really. It's one of those things I do kind of want to sit down and play it. But for tonight, we're going to play Sonic Labyrinth, and I think we'll do Sonic 1 Game Gear. And I guess, time permitting, depending how it goes, I don't know, I'll maybe go into some other stuff with that. And also, one of the discussion point I'll also go into is, we had the Sony State of Play yesterday. There were a lot of announcements, nothing of Sega's. And also, last week was the Nintendo Direct for partners, basically the third-party stuff. Also nothing from Sega. But there's some interesting stuff going on for classic gaming, or any kind of gaming, really. And some stuff I picked up from that, so it's going to be a pretty good segue, because at this point, when the music ends, and we have that going on for Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, which we're back to at some point. I'm going to turn off the original Xbox, because those are going to make too much noise. And now I will also transition out this way when I do the edit, saying, alright, we're pulling that nice and only for now, we'll be back, but for now, let's split this off. We're going to pull out Switch 2. So that's what I got for the purpose of running Sonic Labyrinth and Sonic 1 on Game Gear. And, alright, because I think I had the other controls set, and my, the RetroDing 5X kind of went up on itself. So yeah, it's kind of balanced weird. Actually, every one of my controllers except that one's turning on. Where is that, and why is that one turning on? Because I'm going to be using the Sega Genesis controller. Let's go see where everything is. But alright, here we are on Switch 2. As far as this, let me also see where those NES controllers are turning on for themselves. No, we're not. Where is it? I didn't know these things even had batteries going on, but there we go. Since I only have 2, because yeah, this is I guess the first world problem of having every one of the Switch Classic controllers. Alright, because we're running the Sega Genesis controllers. Like, yeah, I know it's not a Genesis game we're playing, but for this, I think this is the way to go. Okay, so yeah, here we are on Switch 2. As far as the pictures it got, There's nothing really going on as far as Sonic, because remember, all the Switch pictures, the Switch 2 pictures are of Nintendo stuff, so I said, what's the closest equivalent? So I picked Mudkip from Pokemon, and I also picked Nabbit from New Super Mario Brothers. So I guess that fits the idea that this is kind of like Sonic, and this is the robot that snuck into Sonic's house and stole his shoes and took out the other ones as far as the boots. And also on the line, as I mentioned, we'll get into this for the Nintendo Direct discussions. I did buy the Super Bomberman collection. You bet I bought that. And then also the console archives that Hamster Corporation is doing, starting with cool boards from the PlayStation. Yeah, on the Nintendo system. But all right, with that, I'm also going to change my audio because I do need to have this set specifically. Let's get this to 18. What do I have it at? 19.3. Because actually, I got to change these sort of for each game because Sonic Labyrinth is a bit louder than Sonic 1 is. But not by too much. Just get that set, and then we'll load the game up. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, we're pulling Sonic Origins Plus out again. I've sometimes had my choice words on this collection, but now it is a bit better because of the fact that they give you every one of the Game Gear games in it. They fixed a lot of the problems that this game had. It was rushed to market, and I think Sega knows that. And hopefully they won't do it again. Hopefully they won't, stick it again to Christian Whitehead and Simon Tomley, who said, we helped you with this for getting Sonic 3 and Knuckles remade for this, but this is not the code we gave you. You introduced a lot of bugs when you wrapped in your Hedgehog engine, and please fix it. Which they eventually did. It took them like 2 years, admittingly, but that being said, it is a pretty good way nowadays as far as getting this, and physically speaking is cheaper now, but remember, because Sega couldn't be asked to put 15 megabytes for the Plus DLC onto the physical media on any of the systems it's on. You do have a code in the box for that half of it, but that being said, we'll take a look at it, and here we go. Okay, so here we are with Sonic Origins Plus once again. Now, one thing I didn't mention before, I do want to mention this before we start playing. When they added the Game Gear games, I actually did not realize this until a couple days ago. If you go into the options, they have options for anti-aliasing for everything, including the Game Gear games. Also box art options for North America, Japan, and Europe. But it also had an effect for the Game Gear games when they added them. It basically says that it saves the data by region. So you can turn on the Japanese or the European version. In fact, I'm going to briefly show this. I'll apply this that way of the Japanese ones and go over to mission mode going Game Gear games. Yeah, because there's every single Game Gear game of Sonic's that was ever made. But for some of these, it's taking the Japanese release, so we played Sonic Chaos, but in Japan, it was called Sonic and Tails. And also, for Sonic Triple Trouble, it was Sonic and Tails 2. And actually, there is something unique in this one where they give you an extra option on the menu in the Japanese version only. They'll let you practice the 3D special stage in that one. Along with having kind of a different intro as far as how that goes. And also for Sonic Blast, it's called G-Sonic, as far as how it was for Japan. So they reflected that way. As far as it for the European versions, it's mostly the same as the US ones, just to give an indication of that. So I just want to give that idea because I did not realize that it did that, and it only does it for the Game Gear games. It does not do it for the other games as far as what's on it. Although as far as the other games, it does give you the Japanese box arts for Sonic 1, CD, 2, 3, and Sonic and Knuckles, and then also same case, may as well be complete this way, of the PAL versions over here. So there you go. That is how it looked as far as on the Sega Mega Drive and the Mega CD for that, and then 2, and then 3, and Sonic and Knuckles as well. Alright, so with that, enough dilly-dallying, we'll get down to the games we're going to play. But that's always what I like to do. I like to kind of go a bit deeper and give a sense of that. Alright, with that, let's go to Game Gear screen. Let's go about and get this set. Okay. So first on the list, we are going to be playing Sonic Labyrinth. That's the game as requested. We'll see how this goes as far as how long it takes. But as far as my volume, just want to make sure I have that set. Yeah, as I say, stuck wearing the speed down boots we showed in the manual earlier. You can only use the spin dash to reverse Dr. Eggman's lab. Also, time attack. There's a password to show when you beat it that was held for a contest in Japan that ran for about 2 months but doesn't get used. But we'll go into that in a bit. Alright, so let's get this set. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, this was published by Sega, developed by Minato Giken, ex-workers of Arc System Works, as was the case. I mentioned directed as far as earlier, but also mentioned as far as the music here. It was pretty interesting as far as how it sounded. It's done by Atsuko Iwanaga, who did music for Dynamite Headdy for Game Gear, Nostradamus, which is an arcade game, the Quiz Gear Fight, also on Game Gear, and Hanny in the Sky and Hanny on the Road for the PC Engine. as mentioned, there is Sonic doing the spinning, and I'll show the attract a little bit to show, like, what are we getting ourselves into. Alright, they're giving you the demo of the bonus stage. I don't know if I actually ever saw this, as far as how it is. But yeah, you're seeing Sonic rolling around, and there's, like, pinballs and flippers and things like that. Seems cool, but... Oh, with a couple exceptions, we're not going to get that too much in the game. And it's one of those cases where you might want to go fast in this one, but it's also something maybe... It's maybe a mixed blessing for the show. Oh, and they give you, Oh, is that by default? They give you the, I guess the case of what's going on with the fastest completion of the game, I guess. Okay, so let's get the Genesis controller all ready. I was like, yeah, my Switch Pro controller's over there. I just wanted to have that set for the purpose of doing the close. I was doing my audio checks. Alright, I forgot. The way I map the buttons, because you can remap the buttons completely, I mapped the collection menu to start button on the Genesis controller. A and B are the 1 and 2 buttons from Game Gear respectively. The start button is on the mode button on the top, because remember, the mode button does map to the ZR button. So as long as you get that set, you're able to be set for that. So let's hit the start button and go. Okay. We'll talk also about the options. You have normal game, which we're going to go through, as well as the time attack, and you have configuration, which configuration do you hit the... what button do I hit? Alright, I hit the 2 button. Yeah, you can set the number of lives you have going from 1 to 10. I'll go on the default of 3, because I'm really going to need that. There's sound test, and also key control. Now, key control, what that is, it's straight and slanted, or straight and slanted. Basically what that means is when you press the D-pad around, basically you'll go directly left or right, or if you have it on straight, or if you have it on slant, you move left and right, you kind of go diagonally down left and up right, as is. In that case, alright, there's the music. Actually, wait a second. That's other music we'll hear later. Alright, there you go. So I did want to have that set. Just like, why did that music stop there? I do like the intro music as far as this. The Sonic does still have his trademark attitude. He also has the same sprite set, by the way, that he used in Sonic Chaos that we played, so I guess it's fitting we'll run this one next. Alright, with that, I think we're set, and when you're done as far as getting stuff set, I'm going to run straight key control. Hit the 2 button, and he jumps off and we're ready to go. Okay, so here we are in a labyrinth in the sky. I give you 4 levels for each area. Hitting the, moving left and right are all around the place. This is how fast he walks, so yeah, he's pretty slow. But he does run faster when he goes left and right for some reason. But you press the 1 or the 2 button, he starts doing the rev of the do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Depending on how many triangles you have over there, he'll go faster when I let go. But also, if you want to stop him while he's going, hit the 1 or 2 buttons, get the skid to the stop. You're gonna hear that, by the way, every 2 seconds, by the way, as far as this. In that case, you also kill enemies. They will give you time when you kill them. What we gotta do is you have to go and find the keys. That's the idea. There are 3 in a level. When you get one of them, you get 30 seconds on the timer. So, except later, you're not going to be in too much of trouble as far as what that is. Also, you have your items here. These will go to these little symbols, and based on what they are, they will give you something different. In that case, there's invincibility. If I was playing the Game Gear or the Sonic Collection Plus version, the background would be flashing really, really rapidly. Or, in the words of the SomecallmeJohnny channel, like, you can get items as far as this. Assuming they don't give you a fucking seizure, Jesus Christ! Like, yeah, that's exactly what happens, so I'm not going to put you through that. Unless I don't have a choice for certain things. But there's another key as far as it. And other enemies, sometimes the enemies have the keys. If you pick up all 3 of them, you're all ready to go, so you have to find the exit. The thing is that if you get hit by something like a hazard there, you lose your keys and you get them tossed away. If you don't get them quickly enough, they will disappear and then they'll go back to the area where they originally were. But as long as you go to the goal, you're set and we're done. Yeah, you could speedrun this game really quick, and even when I wasn't speedrunning this, we did switch online day as far as on my work break last week, when they put out Balloon Kid and Yoshi from Game Boy. I still had time to basically beat this entire game, except for the final boss, as it was. But in that case, we're set. So we're going to the next stage of Labyrinth in the Sky, so good luck. Yeah, so I'll tell you this, I'll say this. I think I maybe have a little more sympathy for this game because of the fact that, at the time, and I got the invincibility, so like, yeah, he's gonna walk into me and die. Unfortunately, I only get like 3 seconds from killing an enemy, so generally speaking, it's not worth it. But if they're in the way, I may as well get rid of them. But anyway, I guess because I played this when it came out, maybe I'm a little more sympathetic to it, and also the case of saying, like, well, look, just because a Sonic game is fast does not mean it's a guarantee. Remember, I don't like Sonic Superstars whatsoever. I'm willing to maybe give that another chance. But still, it's something where Yeah, I got problems with it. But you do have speed shoes. This is how fast he runs. Oh, shit! Okay, crap. Okay, he definitely goes fast there. That was not a result of the speed shoes. But in this case, this is how fast he walks with those. So that's maybe the case of saying, hey, you know what? Maybe he could run this case. In this case, bouncing the trampolines, go on there. But as I hit the flipper, he just went completely off screen. I crashed into that enemy. So that can sometimes be a problem. But also, his sticky web there, you get yourself stuck. But not too bad. And for now, the only case as far as dying you have to worry about is if you run out of time. If you run out of time, that's death. And if you get hit by the enemies, they will reduce your time. But there are cases later on where you can die from other things, so gotta be careful. We also get points based upon your speed, as well as bonus for picking up the bonus squares. And you do get lives pretty consistently. I think you get them after every 10,000 points. I do love this music as well, as far as how this is very jaunty and playful. As we're pointing out that the music for each of the levels of stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 for each of the 4 worlds, they are set specifically, so you do get to hear them every so often. They have that. Okay, also I got the timer. That gives you a minute extra on time. Actually, no, I guess no, it's 30 seconds. My mistake. There's also one thing that I didn't know what it did, but we'll see as far as we see it. In this case, you also have, yeah, that thing which is shooting out, I guess, it's like a flower or something. It is a key in that, so in that case, you can grab it. Let's see. You also wait to grab something. If you get the 4 circles like that, or the 4 squares that are pink like that, that's extra life. The other thing I'm looking for also is the question mark. If you get that, it kills every enemy that's on the screen. And for a while, I didn't know what it did, and it seemed like sometimes it was random when it happened, but in that case, we're all set. And you do get more points for the purpose of having extra time on the clock at the end. Yeah, so within a couple minutes, we're going to be at the end of Zone 1. And for the 4th act, I guess, if you want to put it that way, it is going to be a bit of a pattern here. In this case, we don't have to click keys. We're basically going down a hill. It's basically called a scroll zone. So in that case, we roll down, you pick up the rings. But sometimes a case where there might be hazards down here, so you have to be careful, but on level 1, there will not be. In this case, just pick up the rings, 100 of them get you a life, like Sonic Your is indicating. But also, you do want to make sure you have a couple of them, as it is, because we're going to run into cases where you can get killed by the boss. And we get down to the bottom of the chute, we're going down here. We're going to fight the first boss, that being Mecha Gorilla. Now, generally speaking, what a lot of the bosses will do, they'll have a bit of a thing like this, where they basically have enemies going around. What you might want to do is just basically rev that spin dash up as much as you can, just bounce back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Remember, when you skid to a stop, you are vulnerable. So what you want to do is be careful of that. But if you bounce your way back and forth and avoid his hands there, you'll be set. You can also pick up rings, or the ring. Oh no, I guess you can't anymore. I guess you can only pick it up during the pre-fight. I guess you want to put it that way. There were 25 rings, but when you get hit by one of them, they're all gone, and good luck. Oh, wait, now they're back. Okay, so the rings are only available before the boss is around, and then after. But there you go. So I did get that, and we're getting one of the Chaos Emeralds. Alright, so yeah, we're done with Zone 1, so that was fast. This game is not long. That's the reason why I said I'm going to be doing something else. I got 174 rings. And even though it rolled over to 0 as far as when I was going down the way on the hill, it did still hold. But now we're going to Labyrinth of the Sea. Yeah, we're underwater. This is, I guess, one of the cases where Sonic is underwater and he can't drown. In this case, you have the canyons. You basically want to pay attention to where the arrow is. In this case, I'm going to go that way, but the idea is you do have to go over there to where the end is. Like, I fell and got hit, or I got hit by that enemy. It does have the same hit animation they had in Sonic Chaos, as I mentioned, but that shows the idea of it. Ouch! So it's a little bit of a puzzle. I'll tell you this, and there's also an enemy there. I've heard this game sometimes compared a little bit to Marble Madness. We've shown that off before. We played Midway Treasures on the PlayStation 2, we showed it. In that you're kind of controlling your way to get to the end as far as the goal, but in this case you have to pick up items as you go along, the keys in particular. And the other thing you need to do is, since that blocks the way, I have to go back towards the beginning in order to get my way through. Or, you kill him, you have to move quickly because the enemies will respawn, or that enemy will spawn. Then hit that, get your way out, and... Okay, that's not I mean, I'm gonna be really confused at the end of the game because, yeah, at the end it's kind of a bit of a question. Right, we go there, here, and then go in here, boom, go that way. And now I just need to find where the last key is. But not too bad as far as where it is. I mean, seriously, I'm still getting kind of fast. Although I guess the idea is that, well, I don't know. With this game, would it be better as far as it going really, really fast? All right, yeah, we can't do that. And yeah, if you're at the goal, by the way, and you don't have enough keys, yeah, you're not going anywhere. So, you have to go find the last one. I gotta remember. Oh, wait, there it is. So, what I gotta do is, it's a little bit of a puzzle, I guess. So, I guess the Moral Madness thing kind of fits, but it's also something where it's not exactly a direct analog. So I guess the Labyrinth is something you take seriously in this game, saying like, okay, don't get yourself running quick, don't get yourself into thinking that, even though I'm rolling around like crazy, and that does keep you going, but it's also time, so it's a question of what that's about. And I got the idea of like why people find this game kind of clunky nowadays. I do want to go this way. There we go. And I understand that, but I was like, I don't know if I'd say this is like one of the worst Sonic games around. I think maybe it's a case where I noticed this a little bit when it comes to a lot of the stuff on the Game Gear. The fact that a lot of the Game Gear stuff draws blanks with people in general, but also the case of saying, hey, you know, how does that feel? And I will say this, maybe I am a little biased in the sense that I had Game Gear growing up. So I kind of am on the wavelength of these games, like knowing what's the style, but other people saying, like, you know, maybe I'm not feeling this. But that's not to say necessarily that games of this era and age are something that people wouldn't get into. I mean, stuff with the Game Boy, for example, like Super Mario Land, all those that we played. Or for that matter, actually some of the other Game Gear games, people love Sonic Triple Trouble, which we haven't shown you, and the only reason we haven't is because I want to show the remake as well. But I think I might handle that as an extra show, or another show, like it's a multi-part case. I think that's how I want to do that one. But people love that one. They like Sonic 1 Game Gear, as far as it. As far as in Area 2, this is something you do have to pay attention to, because in this level, you have to do something very specific, otherwise you're not getting the good ending. Also, it's worth pointing out when you're in here, yeah, that sand or whatever it is, you do run out of time, or you lose time as you walk in. There you go, so there's more time. There's one thing we do need to find specifically. We have to find the cannon, but we'll do that in a second. There, it gets a little bit of a fast run. I think the other thing about this game I'll say that maybe makes it something where I'll stand up for it is it's also kind of straight and to the point. So it's a case where it doesn't waste your time. So if it's a case where like people don't like this game, fair idea, but it's also not a game that is going to be a bad game where you feel like you waste your time. We've gotten that discussion sometimes, saying, hey, you know, when you're playing something like this, what that's like, and do you feel that the game, I guess, it trusted your commitment to it and said, alright, for the time you put into it, ouch, I got myself hit by the spikes. Does it respect that? And I think this game kind of does. Okay, now what you need to do, I'll indicate this, we're going to bounce over here, we need to get into the can. Oh, no, never mind, I'm thinking ahead. It's the next level, sorry. Because there's something very specific we need to do with the cannon in order to get the bonus area, but there we go, going in. But it's also something, I remember, I'll link to this, I remember when James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, when he first looked at Sonic the Hedgehog for that series, he said, I get constant requests for the bad Sonic the Hedgehog games. I'm not aware what those are, because the Sonic games are awesome. But I took a bit of a look, and I looked at this one, I said, like, well, it's kind of slow and awkward, but it's not that great, but honestly, what do you expect? Because this is at a time when, because it was a portable game, the idea of taking the game with you on a trip meant you were sacrificing its playability. Which I say maybe that's the case, but maybe also a case of saying that it was a different concept of saying that, okay, we have Sonic the Hedgehog at home, and saying that, well, what did companies do, whether it was Sega or Nintendo, saying that we're going to take a game and give you a different experience when you're on the road, like with the Mario Land games, for example. And that's a bonus area. We can't go there yet, but there is a trick in here that you use to get there, and you have to use it, otherwise you are not getting the good ending. And you have to beat the game as far as a bad ending in order to know it, or you look it up online. But here's the deal. You see that little hole there? You bounce over there and go into that cannon. What you want to do is walk over to this, then hold right and 1 and 2 while you go up. If you do that, it brings you over to this platform, which gives you a switch. Walk on that, it opens that door. Oh, shit. But I didn't get the key. I can get that key later. Yeah, that opens this door, and by going here, we get the bonus stage. It's the only one in the game. Pick up the rings. Again, they're worth 25 points a pop, or 25 rings a pop. And you have 30 seconds going along. Oh, in this case, yeah, also, in a way, going so fast, I'm going off the screen. Also one of these things where they'll flip you around. There you go. Whoa! So I guess the idea of saying this game isn't fast enough is a case where, yeah, now I don't know, do I want to go fast at this point? Well, maybe you do. So yeah, we're hitting the cones. Like, whoa! Oh, shit. Okay, that is the way you can die. If you go off on the side, you can die, although I don't know if I actually am in the case of saying that I actually would die from it. Alright, there you go. So I need to go that way, avoid the octopi shooting out the ink. And then we go to the end. Yeah, that is how you get the best ending. If you don't do that, you do not get the best ending, and I'll show later what the picture is when we get to that point. And hell, I probably could play the damn game again and not get the best ending to show exactly what it is. Okay, I'll show you this, which is that we went in there already, so it doesn't matter, but if you don't press those buttons, you go over to the goal. And, oh, sort of to the goal. There we go. Okay, so yeah, not too bad. And this game is not too bad to kind of get a sense of, even just as far as picking it up. So it's not something where it's necessarily hard to understand. Because, I mean, I will say this, though. Would I pick to play this Sonic game over some other ones? Maybe not, but then again, as I said, there's some Sonic games I would rather not play than this. Is that I would play this before Superstars, honestly. I played this way more than Sonic Superstars. But in this case, we got another scrolling section. There can be spikes on this one. That's something you gotta be careful of. But as long as you follow the rings, you should, generally speaking, be okay. And it is a case where, is it crunched in? I mean, a little bit. Yeah, like there. But it's also something that, this was designed for the Game Gear in mind. This is not like some of the other ones where they were on the Sega Master System, specifically Sonic 1, 2, and Chaos, and they were scrunched down to this one. As we're gonna be fighting Connie Pearl. Ouch! But also, I took a hit, so I gotta be careful. Also, this boss can take some time. You have to wait until he opens himself and then spin dash as far as how that is. Ooh. Because otherwise he's completely vulnerable and he'll just bounce off. But there we go, we got him. He's dead. Basically what you want to do there is pretty much try and get on the side of him so that then you can have yourself bouncing back and forth across the walls multiple times and hit him. But when he's closing himself up, basically go in the corners and hide yourself. Because otherwise he can shoot out stuff he is. Let's go into the Labyrinth of the Factory. I will say this when we get to the third level of this. This is the part of the game I was not able to beat until 2 months ago. I am not ashamed to say that, and I'll go into that as we go. Kind of is a little bit of a precursor to what Gene Gadget Zone from Sonic 3D Blast was going to be like. And you also get these force field floors where you basically want to walk your way out because you pretty much stop spinning, or you just keep spinning. But walking out is probably the better way. But now they have these bouncing enemies. And, okay, there you go. You drop it down. And also the mesh thing there, you're going to slide your way down. But we're also running a case where this level can kill you with drop-offs. As you're seeing right here, you have to take that platform across, and if you go off the side, he'll do that, like, oh, I'm going to fall thing. If he does that for, like, about half a second fully without you getting back to the safety of the edge, you're going to fall onto a lava pit that's on spikes, and you die. So, we'll probably see that happening as we go. Or I'll show it happening later. Yeah, this is the Labyrinth of the Factory, but it also looks like it's in the city as far as how it is. So I guess it's the living in the city thing from Sonic R, which I haven't played yet. And the only way I have to play it personally is Sonic Gems Collection for GameCube, but that is a pretty good version. And also, by the way, you can't go back to start. You have to go where the goal is and get all the keys. Yeah, because that one's porting the PC version that does have some extra stuff, and the GameCube version adds 4-player support. On the PS2 and the version that's only in Japan and Europe, it's 2 only as far as players. And it gives you weather effects. But the sound mixing is better on the Saturn version, so I don't know which one I'm going to look at. If I do look at the Saturn version, I'm going to import it because it's way cheaper than the US one. It's like $200. Alright, so Labyrinth Factory Stage 2. I do like the color here, so that's the other thing I guess about Game Gear, which is that maybe what got my attention. Okay, right, I forgot the platformers can explode here and leave you with no path. And sometimes they only go one way. In fact, I think that one doesn't. Alright, we'll get invincibility, which is not going to help, because if I fall, I'm still going to die. Yeah, that explodes as far as that. So maybe that was my idea of saying, hey, why I was kind of into the Game Gear, although, as I said, my late grandfather, he bought me Game Gear as far as a Christmas gift, because he realized, hey, when we get him a portable game unit, he saw Game Boy, but he's like, wait a second, there's Game Gear, and he loves Sonic the Hedgehog, and he also said, I kind of love Sonic the Hedgehog as well, as far as, like, shit, the style of him, and with being the tech guy that he was, shit, he always was really curious about this stuff and kind of learning more about it as well, too. So he said, like, Game Gear's the way. In that case, also, Game Gear was in color. The, Game Boy was not. And it was the Super Game Boy as far as it sort of, but it wasn't, no, it was out the same year. But even then, it wasn't a full color case. But I think Sega really did use that pretty nicely. So this game does look nice as far as the colors they choose. It does create a nice feel for everywhere you're going. In that case, yeah, that is exploding, so wait a second, how do I get over to that one? So what I need to do is I need to transport my way back. So this is where the Labyrinth part goes, and I'll say this. As I said, this is not a long game. The fact that I'm over halfway through it, after 20 minutes of playing the game, speaks volumes, I guess. And some people say, like, well, wait a second, it's also because the game's battery life is really short. Generally 5 hours on 6 AA batteries, unless you have, like, Duracell Ultras or Energizer Max batteries, or those kind of enhanced battery cases as far as that. Or you have the battery pack, which is godsend. In that case, you're running 8 hours. I guess figuring, like, hey, you know, you gotta finish this game quick. Although, I never beat it, and you'll see on the next level exactly why. Okay. And when you go through those portals, you do spin around. Ouch. Yeah, but be careful, because they can also bounce you. I'm gonna go... We also seen some sprite flicker. That's one thing to go into as is. Alright, so I do have to go back here, and I gotta transport my way over. I mean, honestly, I might die by timeout. I do like the music, and I do like the aura of this. I mean, it's not a great... I'll say this. It's not a great game. I'm not gonna lie and say, like, oh, this is the best... Ow, shit! I was like, yeah, I'm gonna die, but alright, I'm running out of time. So if I don't get one of the other keys... Oh, shit, no! Oh, there we go, got it. But you do not get extra time by getting the key after you drop it, so I need to get the other one. And time does stop, by the way, when you're transporting, so the game's fair. But I need to see... Oh, there we go. Let's take over here. Oh, no! I took the wrong way. Oh, did I? Yeah, I did. Uh-oh. You know what? I'll show myself falling. Why not? Yeah, there you go. He falls onto the spike lava pit. And there are no checkpoints, although to be fair, you don't really need them on these levels, because they're not that large. It's just a question of saying, like, how we're going to get to where I need to go. Oh, wait, no, that one goes both ways. Actually, I think that's the way I gotta go. So let me grab that. Okay, start with a lot of time. Let's also go through here. I kind of like when this gets a little puzzly as far as how it is now, but something where, yeah, it could also be a question, especially the next world, saying where I gotta go, and then realizing, uh-oh, I'm gonna run out of time. And just being this game's not hard when you get used to it, but it's also a question of when you get used to it. And even in my case, it took me 3 years to get used to it. No. Also, looks like you're falling as far as that, but you'll be safe. Okay, there we go. So that's the one cave. So that's the second. So as far as the other ones, I'm gonna see... Can I go this way? Yeah, I can. Right, so that's the goal. Now, the only other one is over there on the bottom right area. If you hit this, this will take you over here, and then we'll get close. So actually, let's hit the... Now, wait for the yellow? There we go. Oh, that's the time. Yeah, that's what I want. I haven't seen the question mark one, although it's not a case where you're going to run into it much. Alright, there you go. So you get that, and you use that to go here. I can go take that platform to go there, or I can say I'm going to go backwards. And these are set as far as how they are. Later on, we're going to have the doors going around where they were set on a couple of the levels we saw earlier, but as we get on later, they're not going to be. In that case, there we go, we're done. I got tons of time, so in that case, I'll get a nice bonus. Yeah, look at that. Alright, Labyrinth the Factory, Zone 3-3. Let me explain to you why I never beat this game until 2 months ago. Now, for this one, the start and the goal are right next to each other, so that's it. But it's also a case where you're seeing that platform over there. Except it collapses, so it's only starting from there and comes over here. So how do we get over there? That's where the last key is. But what you want to do is, first off, get the keys you see. And also avoid the lasers. The same as the last one, you have to go over these platforms, across the bottomless pit to find where the keys are, and go through the teleporters. And you're thinking, well, the teleport's probably going to go over there. No, they're not going to as far as there. That one just goes right over there. It's like, wait. Not much of a direction on where you're going. So, how do you get there? So, let me tell you, when I was growing up playing this game, I said, where am I going? I had no idea how to beat this. I never beat this game legitimately until 2 months ago. I gotta figure what this is. I looked it up. And it's something where you're like, well, I can't go there. There's no platforms coming around here. I actually did look it up. I was like, it seems so cryptic. But if you come down here, it doesn't look like there's anything down here, and you gotta wait a while. There, that platform. I mustn't have been patient. I guess maybe the thought of Sonic the Hedgehog saying that, oh, wait, that platform takes me over here. So there you go. If you ever wondered, how do I beat level 3-3 in Sonic Labyrinth, that's how you do it. But something where, honestly, I don't know. I don't think you would... I don't know if I would have known to do that. Even when I looked, wait, I gotta do that? It's like, not that I'm not used to going slow in this game. It's still a question saying that that's what I gotta do. It seems very cryptic. So that's why I never beat it. I don't know if people mention having a problem with that. I'll say that is a problem. Like, wait, I want to figure this out. Unless maybe out there you figured this out. Which is fair enough. I won't say, like, hey, you know, there's something wrong as far as that. I mean, that's good you figured it out, but for me it took 30 years, but there you go. That is me handling that specifically and getting my revenge. But okay, so let's go to the boss here. This is the most dangerous of the scroll zones, we're pointing out. It's a small area, and you're going to see, like, the spike balls from Sonic the Hedgehog coming around, and they're way harder to avoid. Like, right there. And when you get hit, you lose all your rings. Well, I guess it's okay in the sense of saying, hey, you're able to get more rings, but if you hit again, you're gonna die. I mean, they do put Sonic up kind of towards the top of the chute, so it is not too hard to figure. But, yeah, it can be a little bit of a question. Alright, we're gonna fight the boss here. This is Needleman, not the Mega Man one. In this case, you have these little robots. In this case, stay out of the way. Oh, shit! I'll stay out of the way, I'll grab these rings. Like, you know, I'm gonna do what I said I was gonna do before, which is... Okay, that one doesn't go away. Alright, here's Needleman. What you want to do with Needleman is hit him in the back. Ouch. And he'll go to the left and the right, so you have to be careful as far as that. You can sort of bounce as far as that. Except in that case, I hit a specific point where I came out of my spin dash, and then you die. And if you do die, you have to go back to the scroll zone. Alright, so I'm gonna get that set. I'm gonna try and stay off to the side, because I know where the... Okay, never mind, it didn't help. I'll go down that way. Alright, fine, my invincibility frame saved me. And actually really long, I guess, because generally speaking, you don't have to worry about them. So yeah, this is an interesting anomaly, really, when it comes to Sonic, as far as the way it runs. I don't think there's any other one that plays like this. Even 3D Blast doesn't play like this. Because 3D Blast is a remake of Flicky, basically. As you showed, we played the Saturn version. I do want to show the Genesis version, and it is 30 years this year, so I think we should. Whoa. And I said I was going to wait for getting repro copy of the director's cut that John Burton made just because he wanted to. But I don't know if I'm gonna do that. Okay, I'm gonna be a little safer on this one. I'm just gonna copy. He's not gonna come up here, so he's basically looking around and saying, well, what's going on. So it's not like Needleman and Mega Man. What is it? 3 he's in? He's in one of those Mega Mans. But yeah, that is his canonical name, Needleman, as far as this game. But in that case, we did get rid of him. Okay. So now we're going back to the last world of the game. We'll have a little more going on. And this is the hardest, and for years I had never seen what this was. This is the Labyrinth of the Castle. That being said, I did see the final boss and did fight the final boss, because Sonic Gems Collection on GameCube does have little challenges that are timed where you basically beat the final boss of every game that's in the Sonic Mega Collection plus, by the way. In that case, you also have to be careful of the enemies that are shooting the arrows out. But as long as you keep spin dashing around, it's not going to be a problem. It also has a nice atmosphere as far as the castle, seeing the way that the fire is on the candles. It does look pretty nice. And as I'll say, I think this game does look pretty nice, although I will say you're probably seeing this. Some of the sprite flickers kind of ugly, in the sense that I'm kind of walking something like, yeah, it's kind of shimmering a little bit. Honestly, I think it might be looking worse on my view than it might be. Oh, also, the guillotine's coming down, and you can't see it. It won't kill you instantly, but still, it's a case where, yeah, this is a castle, and we're also kind of on the outskirts of it. You gotta be careful as far as how that is. But the levels are pretty straightforward, generally speaking, so yeah, not too bad. Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing more than just this game. As I said, we'll look at every single thing in this game as is. And I guess I could probably try and show the bad ending, but I'm showing the good ending first. Yeah, because this is, you're seeing how short this is. We also see, like, the weird worms there as far as how it is. And, like, not Yoshi as far as, like, the chameleon sticking his tongue out. Okay. And also be careful of icicles, so I guess this is... I guess it's a precursor to the Crystal Cavern in Donkey Kong 64. In this case, you have to go into, like, these portal areas. The Sonic's pulled under. Oh, right, I forgot, I didn't forget. I think you have to hit a switch. I didn't know you actually had to do that. I guess because of the way I went when I was practicing, I didn't really get in the case of seeing that, oh yeah, wait, that's something that's blocking the path. Also point out you have these areas, like with the 10 men walking around, there's no walls here, so yeah, you can fall and die, so you have to be careful on that. As long as you don't spin dash too quick, or you also time how the skid is, but you also have physics to that skid based on how fast you're going, you gotta be careful. Right, there's one of the keys. Now, we do have to go back. That is, I guess, the hardest, because they put it at number 3. Okay, so now we're gonna take a look as far as the other parts of the level. Oh, right, it's over here. It's the next one, I don't remember where it is. I ran through it a couple times, but it's also something that I don't have it completely set to memory. So if there's any case where this game is gonna take a little longer, it's because of that. But it is the hardest of the Labyrinth levels, and understandably so. Right, there you go. So you got some invincibility, but I need to keep... Okay, right, in that case, it's taking me over here. You have to then hit that switch. So yeah, the door took me a different way. And then it takes me over... Well, there's the goal. There that is. We're done, and the goal is right there. Perfect. And now we're going with the clock. I never understood why they put that there, but I guess the idea is time's up for a bot and it's getting close to me. That being said, the next level is the hardest as far as searching for the keys, and it is definitely a maze. I guess also depends, if you like maze games like this. Which I guess if you do, it's not too bad, and as I said, I don't think this game's cheap. I'll say, the things that really go against this game, I guess, is really the speed, I guess, the fact that it's kind of awkward and weird. but not really stuff as far as the physics being off, or the case it seems like it's cheap, or even that it just like controls that good. But this level is going to be tough because you also get a sense of where is the key and the question of where you're going to go. Alright, so this is sort of flashing a little more. But yeah, like we're back here. It's like, where are you going? Okay, is it down here? Is it down there? You're basically going to go up and down all around here, no question. I'm not saying this game should have had a map, because honestly it probably shouldn't. That's the point of the labyrinth. Like, hey, figure your way through. But honestly, I don't remember where everything is, but there's also like the, like the ball dragon or wherever it is. It kind of looks like that boss from Sonic Chaos, as far as in the Goblet Zone. Whoa. Alright, so it's not there. Oh shit, no! Oh, I went down there, but before I go, there's nothing there, so we're going down. Alright, the end of the level's there, by the way. So don't forget that, but honestly, I tend to forget it, so we'll have to see how that goes. At the beginning. Now we have these doors. I think it's this one. Like, I don't remember which one it is. Oh, there you go. That is one of them, yes. That's two. Now I gotta remember where the third one is. That took us back there. Let's go here. That's down there again. That's this way. Oh yeah, in that case, yeah, it took me back here. So going through the doors a different way means that you're gonna go all over the place. That means that I'm gonna go on this one. Yeah, I do have 2 minutes, so it's not too bad. I just don't remember where the last key is. Alright, let's see. I did go that way already. Let's see. Whoa. Yeah, in that case, also the fast spin dash is going to be pretty useful here. Alright, now... You get that classic sound effect of whoosh when you go in the water. I do love that out of these Sonic games from Game Gear. It's the little things, and even though it's a case where they're reusing stuff for that, it is kind of nice to hear. It's like, yeah, that feels like I'm going in water. Oh yeah, it's like the Game Gear Master System sound of that. That being said, I gotta find where it is, and also, yeah, that is a case where you can fall if you're not careful. I remember where the last one is, and that's the case, like, I sometimes don't remember the last one is. But I got tons of lives, so we should be okay. Okay, there we go. That's down there, down there, down there. That's the end, so that's the way to go if I'm leaving, but... I need the other key. Let's bounce over here. Oh, there it is. Perfect. So now, do I have enough time to get back? And the answer is, I should. I just remember, like, where to retrace my steps. I think we're going the right way. I think. We'll go this door. I think it's down here. Oh, no, it's not down here. Shit. Maybe it is this way. Oh yeah, it is this way. I think. Okay, well I have to go this way now. Oh shit! Yeah, I know. We're running out of time. There you said the tension's on. It's like, oh, where are we going? Oh, wait. Shit, I don't want to go down that way. Shit. Crap. Right, go in this door. Go in the door right there. Don't go down. think. Wait, yeah, I think it's down there. Oh shit, no! Oh, I'm dead. I'm not winning. Yeah, but if you do run out of time, so I'm glad I got to show that aspect at least. Yeah, you're done. But I got lots of lives, so as long as just remember as far as where it is, you just start with 3 minutes, we should be set. So first key is over here, and then go down the way, and then to the end. Sometimes that's the idea, mapping out where you have to go. There's an item, so if I can get the yellow. There we go. Maximize my time. That's what you want to do here. If you can get the yellow item, which gives you the hourglass, get it. Alright, so that takes us back here. Can that... Okay, I don't care now. I think I just need to go back this way. Yeah, if you take a wrong turn, you're gonna have to go back quite a bit of a distance. I keep going back here. It's like, yeah, I don't want to go back this way. In this case, yeah, I do want to go down here. I think the other one is... I don't think it's through this... No, it's not. Yeah, that takes us over here now, so, alright. And now that all these rooms look alike, because they don't, it's just a case of saying where the door's gonna go. Let's go this way, let's go this way. Down this way. Alright, don't go that way, go this way. And there's also something that because I did it before, you think like, well, I'd remember this by now, but the answer is, oh shit, no I don't. No I don't. Alright, that's where one of them's close. Wait, that's the end. So, like, okay, there's the end. So I know how to get the end, I think. I hope I remember. That's the idea. You have to kind of try and remember it. It's not easy to remember. Whoa! No, I want to go this way, because there's a key there. There you go. That's that. And the other one is... I have to make that long drop-off. To get my ass back there. Which I think I go back in that door. Wait, no, I don't go back in that door. Let's go. Oh no! Okay, I guess I gotta go back there now. Oh no! Crap! Okay, it was one. One is the one that was by the dragon. Okay, so that's here. Yeah, okay, so that's that one. So let's go back and get... Shit, no! I don't want to go that way because that's in the end. It's getting towards it. That's taking back that room that I don't want to go to. Taking me here. Go here. Oh shit, but I hit the water. You can avoid that as far as getting yourself pushed off, but I didn't have much luck doing it. Okay, here we go. Crap. Oh, no, no, no. That's good, that's good. Okay, good. Just make sure I get... Oh, no! We're gonna get through this. I'll make sure I get through this level. Yeah, that's the goal that's taunting me. Oh no. I was like, can I kill you just to get some time? No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think he dies. case I gotta go here. Ow. Okay, no, that's the item, so I already got that. Crap. Yeah, if I don't get over there soon, I'm gonna die. Again. Let's go through the door again. Yeah, I'm dead. Okay, yeah, let's try this again. Yeah, this is definitely the hardest part, and as I said, I only have like 2 months of sort of knowledge. Okay, there we go. So take 3, let's go. Alright, actually, this is... Okay, there we go. So that's where the first is. So go down that first door and get it. Ouch. Yeah, he hits me. Can I kill you, please? I think some of the enemies here are invincible, so I gotta be careful. That's that, because I know where that is. I go down here, there's nothing there, but there is that... Okay, there's that item. Oh, wait for the time, wait for the time. Or get the life, that'll work. I mean, I'll take an extra life. It means that I'll be able to try this again if I fail again. I guess if nothing else, it's also something of saying, yeah, I don't know, maybe I don't want to go fast, or maybe I do want to go fast, and that's the problem for me. It's getting me into trouble. Ow. Can I grab that, please? Okay, so that's that, but... I need to go to... Yeah, I gotta go down here and hit this. And go down that way, the key is over here. So that's that one, and the other one's up that massive drop-off. So I have to remember where that massive drop-off is and how to get there. It's not here. So I do have it mapped out in my mind saying, where do I need to go? So I know where I need to go. It's just about finding where the doors are that are going to take me there. That's taking me down to the end, so that's the end. Don't want to go there. Don't need to go there. Let's go in this door. That takes me there, which takes me over to this way, which is this. Alright, this takes me out here. And going out that takes me the same way. Okay, there you go. I think it might be this door. Let's go in this door. That takes me here. That's sort of the beginning of the stage. Let's go here. That's down the bottom there, which is where the first key was. That's not it. That's the end. Don't want to go to the end yet. So that's this here. Let's do a drop off here. That takes me there. That goes back to that other room. Don't want to take that. So now I'm like, okay, now I'm remembering. Oh, I didn't want to do that. Oh. It's either way, really. Is the item in here still? No, it isn't. Oh, I guess because you only get it once. That's the tragedy. I know where it is. It's just a question of saying, I need to get there now. And I can't go off the side there, because that's going to be a death. And that goes back the same way. Don't want to go down there, because that's that. Let's go back here. It's that again. I think that's down the bottom, so I need to go up top. I guess also that's the question, what's the geographic location of this? Is it, if I go higher, am I going to be at the top of that waterfall? And the answer is, I don't know. I don't think so. That takes me back there. Yeah, this would be really confusing. Let's go down. That's that. Let's go in here. I never go in this door. Maybe that is the door I need to go. No, it isn't. Okay, since I know where the other two are, I think what I'm gonna do on my... Well, let's show the idea of me down. Wait, I said I could die there. Well, they actually proved that I'm right. And I'm not beating this. I've already resigned myself as far as that. Oh, never mind. I guess it's sort of walled, or it's in case you're being pushed enough. But that's not it. Okay, so let's go down here, here. Yeah, I'm gonna die. I know that. Okay, so I know where the other two are, so honestly, I just want to focus on that last one. So this is, I guess, if nothing else, showing what happens as far as this. So, I can drop down there, but I need to come here. That takes me to the top. Okay, so that takes me to the top, but that also takes me down to that first one. But I want to go a bit different. Yeah, I want to go this way. Well, no, I was like, I need to go get that other one. Right, because down there is where that is. Okay, and that is a fixed door. Ow. Yeah, so he appeared, so... Oh, here we go. It's that door there. Just go down there. Perfect. There we go. Now that I know where it is, the rest is going to be smooth sailing. Okay, now I just need to get it set. Hello, everyone. Hello, Dollyfin. So good to see you tonight for... Looking at Sonic Labyrinth for Game Gear. Not sure if you ever played this. I'm in the second to last level because... yeah, the... second last level of Labyrinth the Castle is, well, fittingly, Labyrinth. So good to see you tonight. Feel free to let memories flow on Sonic Labyrinth, aspects of Game Gear, and we're not going to just show this game because it's really, really short. But I just need to get the last key and we'll be out of here. Whoa, shit! And that's where the end of the level is, but that's not where I want to go yet. And this game, Sonic is running slow. That is not a mistake. Now I gotta remember the last key. Where's the last key? Alright, the last key is down here. Wait, there's an item here. I haven't played it, but I remember the Game Gear quite fondly as it got invincibility. And also not giving you flashing lights as far as it on the Game Gear or on the Sonic Mega Collection Plus. Yeah, feel to go into those memories as well, because I want to try and do stuff as far as Game Gear on the show. So there you go. That's the last key. Got it. I finally mapped this thing out after, like, dying 4 times. Since also I'm near the end, and oh wait, that was the item. Never mind. If you were to go into memories of it and also games you like on it, because I want to show more on Game Gear. Not just the Sonic stuff, because obviously there is a lot of that, but I also want to try and show the stuff I have natively. Or I guess right now the only thing that I have that's not Sonic that I can show that way is Mortal Kombat, because they did re-release that in the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. Now in this case, my way down is going to be this way? Or no, not that way. Actually, no, this is the way down. Just have to watch out for those spikes and you set. Fantastic, made it. There you go. Alright, so you got in just in time as far as it's actually beating this level. Thank God. Yeah, because you have only one level left. I haven't been playing this game that long. Game Gear circa 1990, correct? Yes, it was. It was 1991 that came out. But it was also based on the Sega Master System that came out in 1986, sort of. It was kind of a portable well, Game Gear was kind of a portable version of that as we're going down the last of the scroll zones before we go into our final boss, that being the Smiley Bomb, and that is our final joust with Robotnik. But yeah, this was the case of them going against Game Boy and also Atari Lynx as far as Sega, saying, like, we have color graphics as far as the backlit screen, which sure looks nice, but it's also something that it definitely sucked the batteries dry pretty quickly, but something where also you could run it as a Sega Master, because you could run the Master Gear converter and run it that way as well. Alright, we're getting our way down. Okay, final boss, Smiley Bomb. This is the final showdown with Robotnik. If Sonic's gonna be running fast again, we gotta beat him, but it's not too bad, but it's a good time. Case just wait around until he appears. Okay, there he comes. He'll come down as far as what that is. Basically, he does that, keep rolling into him. Okay, he'll drop the bomb and then get your spin dash ready and just keep rolling. Keep doing this and you win, but it takes a long time to fight him because you don't have a whole lot of opportunity to hit him when he comes down. You can only hit him like twice. And since I did the secret thing you have to do on level 2-3, That being holding the right and the 1 and the 2 buttons as you go off a specific trampoline. You open up the bonus stage, and you're able to get that, and that is how you get the final best ending. Which is a weird one about how they do it, but the manual does explain that, saying, oh, by the way, maybe when you beat Robotnik, he'll tell you the secret. Because they will tell you, okay, got it. Okay, we got part of him, right? He's two-faced. In case he has, like, the laser mouth or whatever it is. When it comes down, just spin dash him. That's all you gotta do. Yeah, but the Game Gear was a case of, like, early 90s of Sega saying, hey, you know, we can have this going on and go against Game Boy, which it did decently against, although Game Boy did outsell that thing pretty significantly, despite the enhanced tech as far as it... But definitely some interesting stuff as far as what Game Gear is doing, and also Game Boy is doing. As someone who grew up with Game Gear, it's something where I definitely have a lot of fond memories of this console. This is sort of one of those. I think it's maybe a better game than its reputation. People tend to hate this. Even though I like for 7 you requested this, saying that, you know, I kind of like this game, so like, wait, I say I don't like Sonic 3D Blast that much, but it's like, well, I kind of like this one. Well, I understand that, and I guess at the time, it's not a bad case. We did get him, so we got the final Cast Emerald, and we win. Alright, fantastic. Alright, so that's the end of the game. That being said, there's a couple other things I'll show, and maybe, you know, Dolly Finch just got here. Maybe I should show the parts of the game that we didn't see, including the bad ending, because why not? Yeah, because if you don't get the bad ending, or if you do get the bad ending, you go off to that way, but in that case, we drop that last emerald, and we're set. It is perfect, wonderful. Yeah, that is the main difference. Actually, I'd never seen what that difference was. So I kept that in my back pocket as far as to see what it was. Yeah, there you go. So that is Sonic Labyrinth, but there's a couple more things to show off. I'm going to show off the time attack mode, and you know, why not show the game again? I could beat this game really quick, as it was. I mean, before you jumped on Dolly Finn, I spent like half an hour going into Spiel and also showing off the instruction manuals in the Sonic Mega Collection Plus for the Xbox. I basically had that up first and said, let's take a look at that. We're switching off to this, even though this game and the other one we're going to look at next is already in that collection. There's flashing lights on it, and it's like too strong for me to say that, you know what, I want to give my case going on, you know? So, that's the idea. Alright, so, and I'll go to final thoughts later on. I mean, I will say, as a brief explainer, I think this might be a better game than its reputation, but I think it's also maybe one of those things where the fact that I played it when it was out maybe helped, and maybe the idea of... Sometimes I've been in a case like you have to kind of get yourself set, and they also tell you the stage select code, which is up, up, right, 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 down, 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 and left that in title mode. Alright, but then again, we are playing on Switch, so I can say, hey, you know what, let's save that shit, so we get a sense of what that is. Okay, so you get 5 stars. Okay, so I beat the game in 17 minutes, technically, as far as how it went. Oops, sorry. Hit the start button on that. Sorry, there you go. So that is the idea of what that is like, but I do want to show off 2 more things. I want to show off the time attack, and I'll show the game again. Why not? Okay, so let's run time attack. Hit 2 button for that one. It is a redone version of stage... What is it? 1, 3, I think? In this case, you bounce off the sides, also have the flippers, so there's sort of some Sonic accoutrements going on here. Basically, what you want to do is get the keys in time limit, or as fast as you can. Alright, so I got it in, not the fast you could do, that's 2540, not bad, but they give you this password. I want to explain this briefly, because growing up I didn't know what this was, but as it turned out, there was a contest that ran in 1995 for a couple of months. It was in Japan. It's not active anymore. Based on how fast you ran the game, they would give you this password, and you basically could activate that or send it off, and they basically put your rankings for a prize. As far as what the prize was, don't know. I'll dig out as far as, I think Sonic Retro had something about it going into it. And there are other games I know that did this. I'll give a brief mention of this. One I think we're going to show at some point. That's Mario Tennis for Nintendo 64, where that game actually has button codes for hidden tournaments that actually used online leaderboards for a game that didn't even have online to it, because the Nintendo 64 didn't have an online component. But what they did is they had promotions with Blockbuster Video, IGN, I think Game Informer, a lot of like magazines and outlets of gaming at the time, where you put in specific passwords, and there are tons of them, and you were able to run through a ring challenge, and you basically go along, and after time limit, they would generate a code based on your score, and basically at that point, you could take that code and upload it to the website to say, like, what is the ranking as far as the best players in the world. Though in that case, I think they hacked it and basically just get a sense of people were able to find out how to get the best times for everything, really. But that's kind of what went to this. So it's not too much, and this is the only one that they give you as far as a time attack. So if you're thinking, hey, we time attack across every level, no, that's unfortunately not what we get here. That being said, I will also show the game again, because honestly it's so short. I mean, I guess I could say, like, what speedrun the game now, but I didn't speedrun it before. The game said I beat it in, like, under 20 minutes. But in that case, I mean, we'll see that. Although I definitely spent more time than that as far as it, so I don't know how they categorize time on that. If Dolphin, since you did jump on a little later, I'll explain briefly as far as what Sonic Labyrinth is, which is the idea that Sonic was slowed down because Robotnik said he always outruns my traps, but maybe if I take his speed away, I can win. So he sends a robot to his house, steals his shoes, and puts on these slowdown boots, or these, slowdown boots, that Sonic can't get off, and he says, hey, only the power of the Chaos Emeralds can take them off, and you have to go through my Super Labyrinth to get them. But Sonic says, okay, I can spin dash, so I can kind of circumvent the speed thing anyway. As I said earlier, people said this is the dumbest plot, or dumbest plan that Robotnik ever had, but it's also the smartest, I would argue, because it's a case of saying, Sonic goes fast, let me slow him down, but then I said specifically, it's like Austin Powers, the case of Scott Evil. It's like, well, why don't you just kill him, He's your arch nemesis, why don't you just kill him now when you have the chance and you have him captured? It's like, no, I'm just gonna go and, put him in an overly elaborate situation where he can easily escape and assume everything went to plan. What's wrong? Like, look, I have a gun in my room. You give me 5 seconds, I'll go up there and get it. I'll come back down, I'll blow their brains out. He's like, Scott, you just don't get it. He's like, what do you mean I don't get it? That makes total sense. Like, if you want to defeat your enemy, why don't you just do that? So in that way, you could argue that way for this. Well, I guess, I don't know, maybe Robotnik doesn't want to kill Sonic, but then again, he has all these things to try and stop him. Like, what does that look like? Or even we get to Sonic Generations, the thing that Robotnik says, well, okay, I'm not going to give that away because it's sort of spoiling the end of the game, but there is a nod that openly indicates the idea, like, why does he keep trying to capture Sonic, and is he ever going to be successful? Or has he ever been successful? We'll get to that when we play that game, which way we're going to do that one just as a little bit of an indication, as I'm getting timer items and then invincibility. We're going to run that through... We're going to run the original Xbox 360 version through Xbox Series X because it has a 60 FPS mode. And we'll show that for Sonic Generations' side of things. And then we'll run Sonic X Shadow Generations for the Shadow Generations half. Because there are changes that they make to Generations in the new version that... I don't know if I think it's a good idea as far as stuff they change, and also they didn't take into account certain things when they re-recorded the dialogue, and it kind of sounds off. And since I have a 60 FPS version of it anyway, I said I'll show it that way, but then we'll also cover the new one. But I don't know when we get to that one, or if that's even the next Sonic game we're going to do, as far as outside the ones we're doing tonight. Because the other one I'm going to do is I'm going to pull off, you're saying, early aspect of Game Gear. I said, let's take a look at, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 from Game Gear. Because I've shown it before, but I had audio problems when we ran it. Sort of. It was mic hissing problems. That was 5 years ago, so I think I can justify coming back to that. And that was before I was taking notes and everything, going deep as far as everything. I gave a little bit of a terse indication of everything going on with that game, but not completely. So I said, we'll go the whole way. As we're going to fight Mecha Gorilla. I want to see something, because hold on. I saw this when I fought him a little while ago. Mega Gorilla shoots out the drones first, and then the ring disappears for some reason. In that case, just spin dash into him, be careful of his I guess his fists on feet or something. No, fists that have feet on them. Yeah, crap. Also, when you get hit with your rings, you can't collect them, which actually I guess then makes the game I'm going to pull out next, as far as the tonight, fitting, because that's also a game where the ring is basically just allows you to take a hit. It's not a case you can go collect the ring. Alright, that's level 1. I'll go through the other ones. Also, if you were to let memories flow on this one or any other insights on what you're seeing, or what do you think of this game as far as what it's doing, of what you're seeing, or if you played it. Because the other thing I'm going to do, I may as well do this since I'm playing through this game again. I just want to look this over. I have the notes for this. Because we did have some stuff going on for classic gaming this week. As far as, last week and this week. Because last week we had a Nintendo Direct that was talking about third-party companies as far as what they have coming out on Switch and Switch 2. And yesterday we had a state of play of Sony's that was going into some stuff. Stuff that goes to classic gaming, stuff that goes to modern gaming. Nothing goes to Sonic, though. But it's close enough as far as how it is in distance. I said, let's talk about some of this stuff. So, as we're going to the Labyrinth and Sea, in the one case where Sonic can go underwater and not drown, as we're pointing out, it might be the only case in the franchise where that happens. I have to take the cannons over here to get the key, and then we're all set and we go. But I do need to go and back to that cannon and basically figure the puzzle out. So I guess Labyrinth is a little bit of a puzzle game, sort of, as far as understanding what's the navigation where you need to go. But you do have to kind of move around as far as figuring out how to get through a maze. It's kind of like a maze game, really. But that being said, I'm going to go into some of the stuff they announced, or actually everything they announced, because I took everything down, because it's also stuff we talked about over the years of the show. In case we said, hey, can we get re-releases of some of this stuff, or new entries in some of these franchises? The answer is, yeah, we can get them, and we're gonna. So, first up, we have the return of Legacy of Kain. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. And also, I'm going to deliberately get the bad ending, by the way, which is on the next stage. I'll tell you again what you need to do to avoid it, but I will show that. Yeah, first off, they're re-releasing Legacy of Kain Defiance, which came out on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox in 2000. There's the, before I go to that question mark box that kills every enemy on the screen, but there weren't any, so it was worthless as far as that. But yeah, the Legacy of Kain franchise by Crystal Dynamics, they're involved with this one. Legacy of Kain Defiance was the last game in the franchise in 2003 for PS2 and Xbox, and it's really good as far as how it is. But they've been re-releasing a couple games in this franchise. They released Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver and Soul Reaver 2. Not Blood Omen and Blood Omen 2. It is a very interesting, like, adventure horror-themed game with vampires, specifically Kain and Raziel. It's got these very operatic perspectives. It's also really good storytelling and voice acting, especially Defiance. So they're re-releasing it. It's coming out on not just PlayStation 5 and 4, but it's also coming out for, I think, Xbox Series S and X, and I think Switch is getting it. It's coming out actually pretty soon. It's coming out on March 3rd. But they also said, we got a new game in the franchise. The first game in the franchise in 23 years. That being Legacy of Kain Ascendance. It is a 2D game. And actually, there hasn't been a 2D entry in this franchise. Well, not exactly. There was Legacy of Kain Blood Omen, the first one. It kind of played like Diablo a little bit as far as all of this, like a sort of a early example of a roguelike, but not exactly the same, as I gotta go get my keys. Alright, there's the last key, and that gives me 30 seconds on timer, so since the end is right over there, we can go. But this is a 2D, I guess, Metroidvania. Crystal Dynamics is making it, and it's also coming out really soon. It's coming out the end of next month. That's on March 31st. I think it's on all the systems as well, but they did emphasize the Sony thing, so they said Sony. But then later they said, oh, by the way, it's coming to everything else. But we also got stuff that's specifically to Sony, including the return of God of War. It's been a franchise that, there was God of War Ragnarok a couple years ago. That I heard was really good, and people told me you gotta play it. I have not yet, unfortunately. But they have a new one. It's out now. That is God of War Sons of Sparta. I was gonna say Ghosts of Sparta. Ghosts of Sparta was on PSP. But Sons of Sparta is a 2D prequel to all of the God of War games. It's definitely something different. I don't know necessarily how good it is, but it's available on PS5 now. Also, by the way, if you're going for the good ending, when you walk into this, you have to hold right and the 1 and 2 buttons as you go out of this cannon. Because you have to go into the bonus area in order to do it. I'm not going to do it, because I showed how to do it already. You do have to go in there for the key. that takes you there, but if you do what I indicated, you go up to the right and you go over there and there's a switch that hits that opens up the door down here. I'm going to briefly show that. Right there. Unfortunately, I left this key for last because when you get the last key, one thing I didn't mention is that Sonic goes in that pose, so he's going to put me at risk of the spikes. Okay, never mind, but I am invincible as far as that. Actually, one thing I'm going to do also when I get to the end, I'm going to leave him be because I think he does still the idle animation saying, hey, move it. Although, Sonic's not able to move it based upon how this game's going. He's just able to roll it. That's basically what he's doing. That's the goal. You know what? We're going to stay in here as far as it. But yeah, that's the case as far as God of War. And then they also announced the God of War Trilogy Remake. They're remaking God of War 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 were on the PlayStation 2, and 3 was on PlayStation 3. It's like, yeah, get moving, my friend. Alright, no, get moving now. Yeah, it's early in development. T.C. Carson, he was the voice of Kratos in those early games. He's back. He said, hey, you know what, we're working on it. It's early in development. We'll come back at some point with more, and we do. We're going to have some nice stuff to show you. I'm going to be voicing Kratos again. It's a question of what it's going to be like. Is it going to be a straight redo of sorts? It's not a remaster. They indicated that. And we already have a remaster sort of those on 1, 2 on PS3, and 3, I think, got a PS4 edition, if I remember correctly. But it is going to be a top-to-bottom remake, so Crusader 64 is a little concerned about that, saying, does that mean that they're going to change things that don't need changing? We don't know. It's pretty early, so we'll have to see. One thing I'm wondering is maybe they can have a stream mode where they can censor the nudity. Look, I don't want to censor the nudity out of that game, but for the purpose of showing in that show, if they don't, the only God of War games we can show live on it are the 2 from PlayStation 4 and 1 from 5. Those being God of War, God of War 4 as they call it, and God of War Ragnarok, because those don't have nudity. The other ones do. And it's unavoidable, as we're fighting the Pearl enemy. What's the name of him again? Fine, let me kill him, and then we'll indicate that. Basically roll back and forth into him when he's open, and then you're set. Candy Pearl. I'll remember the last one, or next one as far as how it is. But yeah, that would be a good case. In that case, I could at least do it without, having to do it off screen. I mean, we can. I did that with The Wolf Among Us. I said, I love that game so much. I said, I don't want to take the chance on showing nudity live on the show, because Twitch doesn't like that, and neither does YouTube. So in that case, I can't avoid that. And I guess, I don't know, I do have the raw files of that, so I could figure something if you want to see the nudity, but no, I can't really for the platforms I'm streaming on. But the point is that they did an option for that. I don't want to censor it, but it also means that I have an easier way of indicating, and we'll say, like, hey, you know what, the threesome minigames, they're at least there, and it hides the stuff that's shown. But that being said, we'll see what's going on with that. We don't know what's coming out, but it's coming. And then they showed more on Big Walk. This is the latest from House. This is the team behind Untitled Goose Game, which is an extremely hilarious stealth game. We're playing as a goose, just honking and stealing things of people, making our lives absolutely miserable. It's really funny, and it is very stylish and fun, as we're at the Labyrinth Factory. But this new game of theirs, it's a co-op adventure game, I think for 4 or so players. It does have options for online, and one of the elements of that they're saying they're going to do is they're going to run voice chat for it, or text chat, but the idea is that it's going to be, as they said, proximity-based. Which means that when you're talking with people, it's like, hello, if you're like right next to them, they'll hear that, but if you're far away, it'll be fainter, as far as how it comes off as far as the audio. Or if you're in a cave, it'll echo. Or if you're behind soundproof glass, you won't be able to hear it, and you have to use gestures as far as your character, as far as to get the point across. I guess question, like, how are they interfacing that? Is it something where they can also use, I guess, Discord chat, which I know a lot of people I know play games online will do. I know Crusader 64 was saying that about Final Fantasy 14. He says him, Kazan22, and AG42, they go online for that game to play, and they use Discord for talking to each other. I mean, I don't think that's what's going to interface with it, but it seems like an interesting thing. It also looks kind of hilarious in the sense that you can be a total jerk to your friends if you want, but also kind of have a fun time, do a lot of different things. It's a pretty big world as far as how it's going. And it's pretty open-ended as far as they say, like, hey, it's something where you kind of have a lot of different ways to get through stages, so something where you can kind of play around, almost like a sandbox. It's coming out later this year for PS5 and PC. And next is a game that ties to we're playing tonight. Actually, this is where it sort of ties. And also we're playing next week, as we're at the next part of the factory here. And that is Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. It's the new fighting game from Arc System Works, who made Sonic Drift 1 and 2 for Game Gear. They kind of made this, because the people who made this are ex-members of that team. And they made BlazBlue Calamity Trigger, which we're playing next week for a scoping session next Saturday. It's a fighting game with Marvel characters. They announced aspects of, like, the X-Men team. I think they'd announced Storm already as far as character in the game, but there are other cases of other characters announced, and I fell too far, and I'm gonna die. But they also showed Wolverine. They also emphasized the fact that he's voiced by Steve Blum. And he's also gonna be too many games, I believe, this year, as is. So I think that a lot of people are gonna be excited as far as that with him, and also just the idea that it is a fighting game from Arc System Works. We'll show next week. They know what they're doing when it comes to that, and there's some really cool style of what they have for the BlazBlue games, for the Guilty Gear games, and other stuff they've made as well. It's coming out on August 6th of this year for the PS5 and the PC. They announced a date, which I know a lot of my friends are really looking forward to. Like, they're big into fighting games. Like, they want to play that game. So far, it's looking really good. And it seems like it's going to be a pretty fun one on top of that. And then they announced, or they indicated, as I go down here, Sorrows. It's the latest from Housemarque, that the people who made Returnal. It's kind of an atmospheric adventure game of sorts, as far as how it's going. It looked pretty interesting as far as what's going on. I heard Returnal, which is on PlayStation 5, was pretty good. Ouch. So, it might be an interesting one. It's out in April 30th, and I do want to go that way so I don't get myself killed, and I do need to go that way, but wait for the platform to come. And then, something we sometimes talked about, when it comes to Bungie, the people who made Halo, they first made, they made Marathon, which is on the Macintosh. There was word they were going to do a new one, or they're going to remake it. And the question, what was going on with that? We didn't really know, but they said, yeah, we're working on it. It's coming out, actually, in a couple of weeks. It's out March 5th on PlayStation 5. And I guess it's a question like how that's going to go, what's going to be like. It seems like I guess it's going the Destiny direction, because that's how Bungie kind of operates nowadays as far as their stuff. And they're going to have like a test thing going on as far as like online tests going on for getting it set. We'll see how it goes. We'll see, do people attach to it? Does it take off, or something where it kind of craters in on itself? I guess we'll see. And then Saber Interactive, they indicated they're making a game based on John Wick. They don't have a name on this thing yet. It's very early. It is an original story that they say is going to connect with the franchise. They haven't committed, or they've gotten Keanu Reeves or committed to him being in the game. I'd like to think they could, given that he was in Cyberpunk 2077, and also he's in the DLC of Sonic X Shadow Generations, because for that game, you can buy the Shadow the Hedgehog DLC that came out of it, and since he voiced him in the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 3 last year, he was in it. So I think maybe they can get him, but it does look like this very visceral third-person action combat with the same kind of wince-inducing in the best possible way violence of John Wick. And I do love those John Wick movies. They're great. They're harrowing things, definitely not for children, but then again, there's something weirdly wonderful about the idea that he goes into like a library and he's beating guys up, and then he kills a guy by literally snapping his neck on a leather-bound edition. It's like, some way you kind of get the sense they kind of know the idea of like how crazy it is, but it's also so well set up and so well staged. It's one of those rare cases like modern action films where sometimes you question like, how exciting do they look if you watch a lot of movies? Do they necessarily look in a case where you can see the seams? But not these. And this game, it's really early. We don't know when it's coming. But of what they showed, it might be reason to be excited, especially if you're a John Wick fan. And I guess it'll be the case, because there was a John Wick game, John Wick Hex. I never played it. I think it's been delisted. I don't know if it was good or not, but this looks like it's going to be something interesting. If you love John Wick like I do, you might want to keep your eye on that when we see more. We'll probably see more later this year, I think. At least get a sense like what's going on. But I'll guess we don't see this until next year, if you're going to put it. Then, well, I'll go into that in a second, because one thing I do want to indicate, Dolly Finn, since we're here, and yeah, look how fast I already got through this game as it is. That's why I realized, okay, I can do this, and then we'll go on to the other game I got planned. For 30 years, I didn't know how to beat this level because the question, like, where do I go for that last key? You have to stand here and wait. That platform comes, I never knew it until, like, 2 months ago. So at this point, we're all set. Go over here, it takes you up this way. And I believe it's inside the enemy here, like the caterpillar dude. Ouch. He has the key. He was like, do you want to grab that? Boom, boom, boom. And then take this back and we'll go to the end. Yeah, the next thing they announced is something where it's a little bit of a mixed blessing for me. I'll leave that as it is as far as why. It is something we kind of knew was coming because they said it's coming. But they said, like, we'll announce this when we know we're ready to do it. It's the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2. I'm also not going to say what literally every fucking person on the internet is saying about one of the games in this. So, it is a collection that... there was Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 that came out a couple years ago. It was a mess. And actually, they patched it yesterday for Switch in particular to say that, hey, if you have a Switch 2, you can run it at 60 FPS. I don't know, the way that it ran on the fucking PS2 back in 2001 for MGS2. Actually with 3? No, 3. Okay, 3 did not run at 60 on the PS2. But it runs at 60 frames a second now as far as this. They made it better after they totally did a terrible job with the first one. But they're doing the second one, which has only 3 games. Like, wait, question. But then again, one of those games is Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, which is the first re-release of that game ever. There's been question, like, how is that going to work? As I mentioned, there's something that everybody says. We're fighting Needleman, not the one from Mega Man, but Needleman is the name of him. He'll bounce around. I'm not saying what everybody on the internet is saying about that. The point is that they're releasing Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots in this collection, and they're also going to release Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Specifically, it's going to be the HD version that was in the Metal Gear Solid HD collection from PS3 and 360. It's going to have its online like it had before, and the thing that I'm excited to see in particular about this, not the Metal Gear Solid 4 thing, and that's everybody saying that, but the other thing, they are finally porting Metal Gear Ghost Babel from Game Boy Color. It was known as Metal Gear Solid in the US, and I got myself killed, so I'll do this boss again. It is a great game. It's a game that goes for a lot of money now. So the fact they're putting this collection is quite good, and also they're adding a bunch of extras as far as digital information. They're adding the Metal Gear Solid 4 database that was also on PlayStation 3 that accompanied the game. They are also going to have digital soundtracks going on as far as this, like books as far as the screenplay of Peace Walker and Metal Gear Solid 4 and all that stuff. It's coming out on August 27th for everything. Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 5, PC, Switch, and Switch 2. Thing is that Switch 1, you do need to download a bunch of the game as far as it, because it's not all going to be on the card, and the Switch 2 version is going to be a game key card. And there's, and you're wondering, like, well, does it need to be? Well, there's something I'm going to announce, I'll talk about later, that makes me think, like, I don't know, I think that kind of changed the rules of, I think, how these go. And the reason you think I'd be excited about that, because I love Ghost Babel, and you never played Ghost Babel in particular, or Metal Gear Solid 4, and you don't want to get it on the PS3, which is cheap, as far as just get sense, that's a good option, and same with Peace Walker. But, as I mentioned, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 was a total mess. And it's one of those questions where, at the time, I said, did they do this on purpose because Konami and Hideo Kojima had a messy public divorce? And I'm not sure if I can answer that honestly by saying no. I think they might have. Even the way they opened those games by saying, hey, this game has some stuff in it that's outdated by modern audiences, but we're keeping this way in tune with the development of the original creator. Because first off, they're saying that game needs a modern content question warning. Like, no, it doesn't. We played Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 on the show alone already. No, they don't. And when we previewed a Metal Gear Solid 3, sorry, I think that's ridiculous, the point of that. But also, it's like, they're microaggression in Kojima by saying, like, you can't even name him, for God's sake. I mean, he made that game. He made them tons of money as far as that franchise. They're great games. All of them. So, like, but it's worth pointing out when they did say that, oh yeah, we're going to have this, they said, oh, we're going to make it good this time, as I said. Even though Konami has been killing it on collections, including one they released last week, Stealth, that I bought, and I'll talk about that a little later, I'm not confident about this. And also, I own all 3 of the games as they are in their other forms as it is already, so in that case, I'm going to hold off, though I will say, if you are curious about this and you don't have the consoles they're on, yeah, please, Konami, don't fuck this one up, because you've been doing great with every other collection you've made. Please, I love Metal Gear Solid, and I love Ghost Babel. They can't screw up Ghost Babel, right? Also, Ghost Babel costs a lot of money. In fact, I'll say that. I also said that to Crusader 64. First, he said, I'm so mad they're re-releasing that as far as Metal Gear Solid 4. I just paid $20 for it. I wasted my money. I know you didn't. I specifically was like, I don't think you did. Also, there's stuff specific for Metal Gear Solid 4, I should say, where it does take into account the fact that it's on the PlayStation 3. And it also has licensing with Apple for the case that you run an iPod on that game. I don't know if that's going to be in this release. I'm not sure if it's something where they can't get that license or what, or the fact that if you're running that on Switch 2 or on Xbox Series S or X, how is that going to work? Because they have explicit dialogue references to PlayStation 3 in that game. It's like, how are they going to do that? I mean, we'll see. I just hope they port it right. Please, Konami. You've been doing such a great job with everything else. Yeah, come on. Let's do it right. I'm rooting for you. Next, though, also, the other thing they did that was pretty nice, I'll say this, is Castlevania has been a pretty dormant franchise as far as new games. There's been a lot of collections, a lot of really good collections. But question of when are we getting a new one? Getting a new one this year. That is Castlevania Belmont's Curse. It is a sequel to Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse from NES. It is set 23 years after that, with the apprentice of Trevor Belmont, the lead of that game, which we have not played Castlevania 3 on the show yet. We will eventually. It is a 2D hand-drawn Metroidvania that comes from the developers of Dead Cells, who did have a tie-in with Castlevania for that. So it seems like it might be in pretty good hands. It's coming out this year for PS5, Xbox Series S and X, Switch, and PC. One question I'm wondering is that they said in the trailer is being published by Konami Digital Entertainment. I don't know if that means they're going to have a digital-only release of this or going to do a physical version too. I guess we'll see. But yeah, Castlevania's back, baby, and they also said that this is not going to be the end of it. It's been kind of weird. Not that I dislike the fact they're doing these collections. I love the collections they're doing. They're great. But it's also something like, they're getting a new one, right? Because it's been 12 years since the last one. That was Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. But now we're going to get a new one, and I'm really happy. But they say there's also other stuff coming on with Castlevania this year. Maybe more stuff in the anime, because even when the anime came out, I thought, oh, they're going to tap into that, right? Not till now, they're not. But they're going to do it, and I'm glad to see that. And maybe another Castlevania collection. I think they got one or two more in particular as far as covering the rest of them. And next up is Project Windless. That is an adaptation of the book series The Bird That Drinks Tears. I'm not familiar with this. Oh god, we gotta do this again. Hope I remember where I'm going. Okay, I made a mistake as far as where I'm going. I knew where it was there. That's the end, so like, yeah, we're going to the end again, so that's not quite right. Maybe because I did this a couple, like half an hour ago, maybe I'll remember. Okay, I'll go for the keys I know, as far as where they are, which is going down here, here, and the end of this way, there's the one key. I'll grab the item in here, because it is in here, I'll grab that. Waco is yellow, because I want the time. There you go, perfect. Yeah, but Project Windows is from this company, Krafton. I'm not familiar with them that much. And they showed a little bit of this, but it's also pretty early. We don't know when this is coming out. But it seems like there could be some potential as far as what it's looking like. Okay, no, we're going this way. Gotta remember now on the maze as far as where we're going. Also, IO Interactive showed off more of 007 First Flight. That's the new James Bond game. No, oh crap, I forgot. I go in that way, and then I go across where the key is. No, I do want to go this way, go back. Yeah, but they keep showing off 007 First Light. It is coming out in May 27th. It was delayed. It was going to be coming out next month, but shit, why did they do it? Why are they doing that? I guess because I think I can get out of it and come back, but I guess I can't. That's dropping off there. Yeah, but they showed more stuff on the story as far as it does seem really cool, and I can't wait for the new Bond game, the first in a long time. Not since 007 Legends which I know is not well received. So here's hoping we get another really good one. Okay, so let's see. There. Okay, this is the door I want to go. Crap. I thought I could spin dash my way out, but alas, I could not. Next up, they show more on Star Wars Galactic Racer. They did confirm also, it's out this year for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC. It is a modern take on Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. It's from the ex-developers of Burnout, and that got my attention. Like, oh yeah, the people made Burnout. I miss that franchise so much. So the fact that they have a new game as far as that. As there we go. There's where the last key is. That key. And now that I know where the other one is, I can hopefully get down to get it. No, that's the end. I don't want to go down to the end yet, but I have to, just from how I'm going on this. But they showed off more stuff as far as that. It still looks really good. It still looks really fast, and I want to play it. Next, they give an update on Mina the Hollower. That was the new one from Yacht Club Games, who made Shovel Knight. They put a demo out on that on Switch and Switch 2 last October. It then got delayed at the last minute, and they said, we don't know when it's coming out. What happened to this thing? In fact, on Switch 2, it had a placeholder date as far as the release of 2030. Does that mean it got delayed 6 years? Like, no, it didn't. It's just a case where that was a placeholder what we had. But they did announce, a date. Oh no, they didn't announce a date. They announced a release window. It's the spring. And they also dropped a new demo for PlayStation 5 exclusively. It's kind of a sort of a roguelite. It has a lot of Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening to it. And it is really, really cool when I played it, because they did drop the demo on Switch 2. I did play it when it dropped, and it's pretty cool, actually. So yeah, hopefully not long a wait on that one. I gotta get over to where that other thing is. I know where the last key is. I just need to get my way back. You know, let me just get my ass back there, and then we'll go to the next thing on this. Oh, here we go. So I have to go here. I am going to try this because... Well, actually, no, I'm not going to try this. I'm going to go in this door. Wait. Okay, that took me back there. Shit. Alright, I guess I gotta try this. So the key is over here. I go in here to the right. I know where it is. It's just that... There you go. Fight against it, go here and... Yeah, grab it, because that gives me extra time. Ouch! Unless I get myself hit. Oh no! Okay, now I just gotta remember how the hell to get to the end. Oh no, it's right here. Perfect, we're done. Just don't get myself hit with the spikes again. We go down here, we made it. Fantastic. First try. That is definitely reversing how it was a little while ago. Okay, the next thing on the list is something that's out in a couple days. That is a prologue DLC for Neva, which was a independent game that came out, I think it was last year. I think it was about, like, a deer trying to go through aspects of the environment. I heard it was really sweet and touching and very heartbreaking as far as it goes, but in a natural way. They're adding this DLC for it called the Prologue. It is out on February 19th, so it's not too long now. And then they showed more on Beast of Reincarnation. That is the new game from Game Freak, the new Pokemon. Yeah, they're gearing up for the 30th anniversary of Pokemon this year, I know, as far as that. But they have a new game that is being published by Microsoft, but because Microsoft is not believing in console exclusives, it's come to everything else. It's Xbox Series S and X and PC and PlayStation 5. They announced a date on this. It is out on August 4th. And they promise it'll run better than Pokemon Gen 9 did. Although, given how Pokemon Legends ZA runs pretty well, I think maybe that's a case where they're going to have some. It's something of a Souls-like. It looks pretty interesting in what they've shown. Well, the Microsoft and also Sony yesterday. Then they also show more on Control Resonant. That is the new game in the Control series of Remedies being made, Max Payne and Alan Wake. It's out later this year. And Tecmo, they're bringing back Dead or Alive, the fighting franchise. Known for its beautiful women, but also its good-looking men as far as how it is as well. And also, I guess, the case of, like, nodding to the late Tomonobu Itagaki, who passed away last year, who started the franchise with Team Ninja, and it's still Team Ninja who's making it. They're releasing Dead or Alive 6 Last Round. It is an enhanced version of Dead or Alive 6. It also has all the DLC that they make a killing on that DLC, selling it for all the costumes as far as all the sexy outfits and everything. Which go for like hundreds of dollars, you're getting every single one of them. But this Last Round version is going to have all of it, and they're also going to have a free-to-play Core Fighters version, the way that Dead or Alive 5 Last Round did. It's out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC on on June 26th, actually a little earlier. And they showed footage of what I thought was Dead or Alive 7. I thought it was like, oh, they're doing what Ryoga Gotoku Studios are doing with Virtua Fighter, saying we got another Virtua Fighter coming. But they said it's a Dead or Alive project, next Dead or Alive project, is what they're calling out, Dead or Alive new project. They're just showing full next-gen tech as far as Dead or Alive, which always showed off aspects of its graphics pretty well, and the fighting was great as far as being able to back up the great looks of itself. They said it's not necessarily Dead or Alive 7. Maybe it is. But we'll see eventually, as we got Robotnik again. And we're getting the bad ending, so we'll show how that goes. We know that's coming, but they say we're working on it. And Capcom showed more on Pragmata, which they also showed for Nintendo. It's out on April 24th. And it does have a demo now, as far as, I believe, all the consoles. That one is free. Okay, so if you get the bad ending, this is what happens. He drops that. I just miss it somehow. I don't know how. I rolled right into it. They say all zones clear. That's a high score, but it is not perfect. So the game tells you, like, oh, it's not perfect. But and this also explains that, okay, how do you find out how to get the good ending? Yeah, I guess the idea that be getting a decent score as far as running this for the purpose. So if nothing else, this also has a speedrun appeal, and also has a case of being able to go for high scores as far as well. And I guess before I go into the rest of the stuff, I may as well give a final thought on Sonic Labyrinth, because in this case, I think we're basically done with everything we got on this one. It is a game that's not seen very highly nowadays. I don't know if it necessarily was seen that highly even when it came out, but it's something where it has a charm of itself. It is weird, but it's something that, even with the years of Sonic that have gone by, part of it might be a bias in my case of saying, hey, I played it when I grew up, although even then I didn't like this as much as other Sonic games on this console, but I guess I appreciated the idea of, you know, something unique, but it was perfect anyway. Fair point. Yeah, I mean, the idea, like, is any game perfect, and what does that look like? And also, what's it gonna look like to you specifically? Because I know Electris, when we talked about, okay, he suggested we wanted to do this as far as how it goes. I can't believe they say that. Well, that's true. I mean, it's also sort of the last line of the movie Something Like It Hot, is saying that, by the way, it tells you what to do, saying here, Fuji 1 go. It's like, hey, if you want to know how to do this, hold right and the 1-2 button, we can go on off of that and try again. So yeah, there's my score, which actually isn't even the high score I got last time, but I did go quicker, and I don't know how they indicate that as far as it. Yeah, but not perfect. Yeah, you're right. Fair enough. But I mean, I get that idea of thinking that, because Electris said, saying, well, we talked about Sonic 3D Blast. Like, I'm not a big fan of Sonic 3D Blast. Maybe I'll give a preview of that one. As far as tonight, as far as something, depending on time goes. But then again, he said, well, I kind of like this one. And he's like, maybe that's not a popular thing to say. But also, maybe it's easier to take nowadays because you can get this in collections. It's not something where it costs a lot of money. Even on the Game Gear, it doesn't cost a lot of money. And something where I said earlier, before you jumped on, I said, what I think I like about this game is that maybe it's a bit awkward. Maybe it's weird you're not running with Sonic. Maybe it's not what you expect. But it is also a game that I do think is maybe respectful to the player's time. Because you can go through this thing quick. I mean, I beat this game twice in like an hour and a half. So it's something where you can kind of go in, get through it, and get done, and say like, oh yeah, you know what, I had this experience. Whether I liked it or not, okay, whatever. I kind of like the idea of it. Maybe the different perspective of pace, but also, as I said, I played so many Sonic games. I take this over something like Shadow the Hedgehog with some of its design aspects, or Sonic 06, or even Sonic Superstars, as far as it. And even other Game Gear Sonic games I'd probably be less inclined to play than this, like Tails Sky Patrol and the Game Gear version of Sonic Spinball. With like, I think this is better than those. I think this is aged a little better than some of those. But it is an acquired taste. I understand why it has a negative reaction, but I also understand why people find something interesting. Definitely looks nice as far as how the graphics are, despite the flicker with Sonic Sprite. I like the music. Definitely like that. And it definitely has a unique feel to itself that makes it stand out. And if you never played it before, as I said, it's a couple Sonic collections. It's in Sonic Mega Collection Plus for the PS2, Xbox, not the GameCube, the PS2, Xbox, and the PC. It is also in Sonic Origins Plus, which we're playing it in, which is on Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, also PS5, Series S and X, and PC, and Switch 2. Let's play it as well. And honestly, in that case, you also get a bunch of other games in it. So if you're not a big one on this, it's like, okay, fair enough to that. But you also have other Sonic games you have a good time with. In this case, this collection has every Sonic game of Game Gears that ever existed. And even on the Game Gear itself, it's like $15-20, so not too bad. Not really one of the most expensive ones. Actually, of the expensive Game Gear games that I know of, Tales of Adventure's much more expensive. I love that one. That's my favorite. And that's another one that's not exactly what you expect out of Sonic. I mean, you don't play Sonic in it as it is. But the way that game is designed and the way that one kind of has something unique that's not exactly what you expect out of Sonic, it works really well. And its way, I think this game kind of works well, maybe not as well as that, but something where it is unique. And I guess it also differentiates the idea of saying, hey, you could argue the idea that, hey, when you're growing up saying, like, we have Sonic at home, why do you need a portable case? This is an experience you were not getting at home, at least not yet. And even Sonic 3D Blast, when they came out, didn't play like this. So it is a unique perspective as far as Sonic, and maybe worth a look. Whether you like it, I don't know if I'll guarantee that. But I understand why I like First likes it. There's some interesting things about it. I mean, maybe that's the idea. At this junction in my life, it's a case where, when I play games, even the cases where maybe they're not great, and actually, maybe like this one more than I'm making it sound, honestly. But a case where, I don't know, it's a case where sometimes it's a question of, like, games that are really, really good and great, but also sometimes games that are really interesting. There's stuff about this game that is really interesting. And I can't dismiss that. And as I said, the pedigree of this game is pretty interesting, the idea of saying that it's ex-members of Arc System Works who made that. So it's interesting, I guess, the idea of this, saying that on the Game Gear, you kind of got some new blood as far as, because you think, like, well, everything's by Sonic Team. Maybe, yes, but even on the Genesis, that wasn't exactly the case. But with this one, it's definitely the case as far as Game Gear. Stuff by Arc System Works, in fact, let's go into that. Since we are done with this, let's hit the start button, let's go back to the game catalog on this one. Yeah, because before, we're going to look at this one next, Sonic the Hedgehog, the original, which is not by Sonic Team, but as far as this, you had Aspect Company who made Sonic 2 and Sonic Chaos and Triple Trouble. It was Arc System Works who made both the Sonic Drift games. I don't remember who made the Game Gear Sonic Spinball. Tail Sky Patrol is by Sims. That was the people who made Shadow Dancer's Secret of Shinobi and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie for Genesis and Game Gear, which never came out here until years later. It was Aspect Company who made Tales of Adventure. It was, let me get the name of the company again, who made this one. It was Minato Geekin who made Sonic Labyrinth here. And Blast was, I think that was Aspect Company too, I think. I don't remember on Mean Bean Machine as far as, okay, no. Mean Bean Machine, it says right there, it's Compile who made the Genesis version. So they made the same one. Actually, none of the Game Gear games, as we're pointing out, were developed by Sonic Team at all. So it's interesting to think that, of saying, what are some other companies as far as what they're doing? And I'll have the spiel as far as this next one, and then we'll go back to the stuff with Sony, and then also to Nintendo, as far as what their announcements were. And there's a case where you also cannot get, you can also get a case of not getting perfect out of this game, but it will not necessarily say to you, oh, try again. Also, I'm going to change the audio on this a little bit, put up like 18.7. Because this one I can have a little louder, actually 18.4. Because this is sort of a second chance. I said even though we did second chances every month last year, they're not stopping. We'll have them every so often. So this is going to be a every so often case, because otherwise I end the show now. It's like 2 hours and 14 minutes. Not that I'm shortchanging the play of Sonic Labyrinth. I did everything I could with Sonic Labyrinth. Played the game twice. Showed the good ending, bad ending. Showed off time attack mode. Showed off bonus stage. So that was everything is there. So, and we showed the manual off earlier in the show, and also the manual of this one. But in this case, this is the extra one we're going to go. It is a port of the Genesis game, but it's not exactly because it's a lot different. Let's get into this one. And even on the Game Gear, they had the digitized Sega. And you're seeing Sonic there. We did play this game a while ago. It was like 5 years ago. But I had issues with the mic. So I said, because this is so short, I could pull this one out as well. But let's talk about this one. This came out a couple months after Sonic the Hedgehog from Sega Genesis. It came out in November of 1991 in the US, around when the Game Gear launched. A little after, I think. And in Europe, it was November 8th of 1991. It was also released that way for the Sega Master System, which we're pointing out in the US. It was the last game on the Sega Master System in particular. And then it also came out in... Okay, that was the Master System version as far as November. But then it was December 28th of 1991, Japan for the Game Gear version. December for the US of 1991. And also same day as far as the Sega Master System version in Europe of November 18th. Oh, no, not the same. 10 days later. Sorry. Unlike the Genesis game, though, this was developed by Ancient. Ancient Corporation Limited. This is a company run by Yuzo Koshiro, the guy who did the music for Streets of Rage. We'll get into that in particular. But he also did development. He developed Streets of Rage 2, which we played on Sega Genesis. He also developed the Game Gear version of that. He developed Robotrek for Super Nintendo, Beyond Oasis for the Sega Genesis, Car Battler Joe for the Game Boy Advance, Amazing Island for the GameCube, and his most recent game was Eartheon, which came out last year. It was kind of a bit of a family affair also, as far as how this game was made, which I didn't indicate last time. The demo showing what's going on. I'm getting myself killed as far as we're going to these places that are mostly not stages we saw in Sonic 1 on Sega Genesis. It was directed, and the graphic design of this game was by Ayano Koshiro, that is the sister of Yuzo Koshiro. She was the main designer of Streets of Rage 2, as well as the designer of the scrolling stages for Actors 2 for Super Nintendo. Did graphic design on Ease the Vanished Omens for the MSX, as well as the Sorcerian for the PC-88. Actors for Super Nintendo, Terranigma for the Super Nintendo, still not released outside of Europe and Japan. Maybe we can get that happening soon, if I say it enough. Also was graphic design on Card Capture Sakura on the PlayStation 1, also released only in Japan. And did monster design on Lunar Sanpo Suru Gaikuen. That is the prequel to Lunar Silver Star from Sega CD and PlayStation and the modern versions of it now. That was the Game Gear version, so yeah, there was a Game Gear prequel. I believe it's been translated fan-wise, but they have not re-released it. Maybe with the Lunar Master Collection that came out last year, maybe we can get that one. I guess we'll see as far as how that goes. As far as the people who were also involved in making this, it wasn't a whole lot. When I talk about the programmer, that being Shinobu Hayashi, who was a programmer on the Scheme for the PC-88, as well as Sega Rally Championship for the Sega Saturn and Arcade Decathlete for Sega Saturn, and LA Machine Guns, Rage of the Machines, which is an arcade game, a light gun shooting game from Sega that does have a home port, an expansive home port. That is in the... what's the full name of this game? I have it on the Wii. That's the old release of it home. It is Arcade Hits Pack, Gunblade New York, and LA Machine Guns. It's actually the rarest game I own on the Wii. It's a really interesting one. Kind of hilarious as far as how it goes. And also talk the music. It is Yuzo Koshiro did the music. Yeah, his credits are Legion. We've heard him a lot on the show. We previewed Revenge of Shinobi. He did the music on that. He did music on every single one of the Streets of Rage games. Streets of Rage 1, 2, 3, and 4 on every system that had it. Actors for Super Nintendo. He did music on a Star Wars game that Japan got. I was not aware of this. He did the music for Star Wars Attack on the Death Star for the Sharp X68000. There were versions of that on the Atari systems in the US. But in Japan, that was a case of that. He also did music for Beyond Oasis, Legend of Oasis, which is a Sega Saturn sequel, Shenmue 2, which we'll get to when we get to that, Eartheon, which came out last year. There's also music for Half Moon Hero on the PSP, the X68000 version of Bosconian of Namco's, and also Castlevania Port of Ruin for DS, which we previewed a couple years ago. And the first game he did music on, I figured it was worth going into this, was Romancia Dragon Slayer Jr. for the MSX, which is a game in a long-range franchise that actually there is a sort of new version of that coming out soon, as is. But you're also seeing here when it comes to Sonic here, it is a bit different. You're not running into the loops as much as far as stuff like that. He doesn't run as fast, but you still kind of get yourself up to speed, sort of. And also, his sprite's kind of small. So we're pointing out one thing. This is on Sega Master System. What happened with that one is that he had a bigger sprite, but for the purpose of the Game Gear, they said, because of the way the screen is kind of crunched in itself as it's going dim, they figured let's get the sprite size of Sonic down a little bit. Actually, just for the purpose of comparison, I'm going to briefly show this. I'm going to boot up its sequel, Sonic 2, and the reason I'm doing that to show what the sprite set looked like on this, because this is what Sonic looked like in the Sega Master System version of Sonic 1. I'm going to skip this just to go into the game to show this. Okay, so for this one, just briefly indicating, this was the sprite that Sonic had on the Sega Master System version of Sonic 1. In Sonic 1's case for Game Gear, they changed it, but for Sonic 2, they said we're keeping it the same. And the case that, yeah, you know, because of how tight in it is and because he's bigger, question of saying, it might be hard to see things. We showed that we played this game a couple times, although even then, I played this with the Sega Master System version where it didn't have that problem. But I just want to give that as a point of reference, at least. And we'll go back to this and we'll start it. This is another one that's not going to take too long. Also, Chad, I don't know if you've ever played this one as far as the 8-bit version of Sonic the Hedgehog is. Some people tend to like this one more. I don't know if I do, but like with Sonic Labyrinth, it is a case of a unique take on Sonic the Hedgehog. And I guess if nothing else, case where when you bought this, if you even played the Genesis game to death, and I got this, in my case, I played this in 1994, so it was actually late compared to Sonic 1 on the Genesis. It was a surprise to me realizing that this was not the same case, so it didn't make sense to play both. It makes sense to play both with the show. I never played it, and it looks cool. It is interesting, thinking like early case of it, and actually, I'll tell you, before I played this, I remember hearing a story from my brother in Herentnock. He mentioned when he was in school, he was on the school bus at one point, and he saw a friend of his playing Game Gear, and he had this, and like, Sonic 1. I was like, wait, there's Sonic 1 on Game Gear? He's like, he told me about it. He said, hey, yeah, he's going through Green Hill Zone, but also, like, he's going underground. I was like, underground? Like, he didn't go underground in the Genesis game. Nowadays, he went underground when you play Sonic Mania, because there's underground sections. They sort of have that in Sonic Generations going into that. But back then, I was like, huh? And it was not of a day where I could look on the internet and look in magazines even and see, like, oh, what does this look like? I just went one week, said, it's like, there's like, he goes in the water and there's water. He's under the ground, I should say, and there's water. Like, I was intrigued. It is interesting as far as, I guess, looking at the early cases like 8-bit Sonic. Maybe it doesn't look as flashy as some other cases as far as like how Genesis goes, but looking decent on this. As we're going to Green Hill Zone, this one is a bit different, and you are hearing the music that this is the redo of the Masato Nakamura music from the original Sega Genesis game. Same deal, sort of. You're going left and right with Sonic and jumping. So the screeches as far as to a stop, and then collecting rings. 100 rings, get your life as always. That does look very pleasing, and also the case of invincibility in the modder, bust that. You roll downhill by rolling and hitting down. You spin off, and then if you do that, you go off screen. That is a known glitch as far as this game for speedruns. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show the whole level goes. Also, there's the arrow box. That's different. What happens with that is that you hit that, and if you die, that's your checkpoint. Weirdly enough, though, when you come back from checkpoint, you come back with a minute 30 on the clock, no matter when you hit it. Also, there's the motobugs. They're really tiny in this game, as far as how it goes. But yeah, it has checkpoints. It's one of the few Game Gear Sonic games that have them. Also, this game introduced actually something that we'd see later in like Sonic Colors and Sonic 4 Episode 2, that exclamation mark indication. It was not in the Sega Master System version. It basically gives you a warning saying, hey, some dangers ahead. In this case, also collecting rings. We get to the end of the stage. If you have 50 rings or more, hit the post here. You have to go exclamation mark. We're going to go to the special stage. It's not the same as the 360-degree rotating one from the Genesis game. You do every aspect saying you get points for time you have left or time you've taken and also rings you collected. But in this case, you come in here on these bouncy springs in this nice moonlight. It's really nice music as far as how it goes. In this case, you can collect the rings to get lives, 100 dual life as always. But also, if you want to get continues, this is where you get them. Because, yeah, you have no continues to start this game. But if you come in here, you find boxes that say continue. So in that case, like right there, it says, yeah, continue right there. Hit that, you'll hit it from the bottom, bounce it downwards, and it comes down. Boom, bash it, and in that case, you have continue. In that case, I also got life. But it's also pointing out when you get 100 rings in this game, it only runs on 2 digits. So in that case, it rolls back over to 0. Yeah, there you go. So that's something a bit unique as far as how this is going. But yeah, in that case, I do want to get continues because parts of this game can get difficult. And even though they did tailor the graphics with the Game Gear in mind compared to the Sega Master System version, there are parts where it still can be a bit difficult. And also parts they actually enhanced in this version over the Sega Master System version. She also had a Wii Virtual Console port. That's the only other release of it, but I didn't get it. So in that case, we only got this. But all right, here you go. Going to that, we're going underground. Like, whoa, okay, that took me back. Saying, okay, so this is not like the Genesis game, but I kind of like that. Saying, okay, it's something unique as far as how we go. Just going down, follow the arrows. Down in the water. Yeah, if I'm in the water too long, I'll drown, but there's also a little bit of a trick here. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Actually, in all the years I've been playing this game, I did not know there was a life in this wall. There you go. That's also how I'll play games for a show like this. I sometimes find stuff even I never know. Like, I don't know everything about games. Sometimes I find it by accident. In this case, when in the water, there's a little bit of a trick. Not just the fact that in here's a life, but also if you roll, you also roll faster in the water, even though the water usually slows you down. But if you're in the water too long, you will drown. I actually want to see something here. I have a shield that does not protect me from drowning, but I just want to see. Does he have a case of starting to get drowning going on? Actually, I don't think I actually ever tested that. Yeah, I think he would. Unless maybe the water's just for show. You know what? I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. Maybe not. Maybe it is just a show. Maybe you can't drown in here. You know what? Maybe when I get to the end of the show, I'll come in here, I'll do schedule, and I'll see, hey, you know, maybe Sonic can drown, also lose the shield. The shield, by the way, does not take up all of his body. So that's another thing to indicate. Also, like the Genesis version, the special stages do not have Chaos Emeralds, so they're in levels. Usually in the second level, not always. In this case, you do a roll across here. I'm also going to try this, because now I'm seeing like, hey, there's something in the wall over there. Okay, there isn't there. Come down here, there's emeralds on the ground. Just pick it up. You get the best ending, sort of, kind of. You get all 6 of them, but it's also something where the game does not, say, try again if you don't get them all. Most of the Sonic games on Game Gear do that, but this one does not. In this case, we're just going to make our way through and also get rings as far as that is. And as far as time, it is still the same case as far as Sonic the Hedgehog normally, as far as the early era of them, which is every level has a 10-minute time limit. If you run out of time, it's death with yourself. So, unless you really dawdle, you're not going to have too much trouble going on. In that case, I'll do a roll across and go through. Also, you get other prizes on the panel depending on how many rings you have. Which also give you 10 rings or also a life if you're lucky enough. We'll go to the next special stage. Okay, so this is a bit different. So they do give you some different layouts, and then they will eventually repeat, and they'll have only 1 minute as far as getting through them. They start with 2 minutes. In this case, it continues right there. So as long as you go in every single one, you can just get all the rings you get. You should be set. It's very dreamy, but also in this case, if you keep bouncing like crazy, you can almost outrun the screen. So just like with Sonic Labyrinth, it's something where you can kind of play around with it. Also, the springs, for these ones, you basically just run over them and you bounce. But some cases, you can kind of run through them. You have to jump on them on the top. Okay, so there we go. We're done with that. But you'll always get Robotnik no matter what you hit when you come out here. I guess what I also do as we go is I can also go into the other stuff with the Sony stuff as far as the state of play. Next on the list was 4 Loop. That's a co-op roguelike shooter from Bad Robot Games. It is J.J. Abrams' company. But it is led by Mike Booth, who did designing on Left 4 Dead from Valve and Turtle Rock Studios. So, it looks like an interesting concept. And now we're at Act 3. Every Act 3 has a boss with Robotnik, but you have no rings. Now, in Sonic 2, that was a horrible thing. In this one, generally speaking, it's not. Also, you can find a life usually hidden around every Act 3. Also, the shield carries across levels, but it's worth pointing out, if you get hit by a Robotnik, he ignores it. But honestly, you're not going to need too much, you're not going to have to be in too much trouble for this, especially because of the way the Game Gear goes, it makes this boss way easier. I'm going to show you how it fights on the Sega Master System version. You just jump on and hit him 8 times to win. He's just going to fly around. I could beat this boss in like 10 seconds. But on the Game Gear, or on the Sega Master System, I should say, what you have to do is you have to wait till he comes down, and he'll dart across the screen. In that case, you basically jump on him. So I could fight him that way. I'm gonna find in the Game Gear way, which is that he's basically no trouble at all. Just keep jumping in your way. And because of the smaller screen resolution to that, it's a factor, but he will still kind of come and dash towards you. But in that case, he's done. So off he goes, and then you hit onto the caps and release the ends. So that part's the same, but the rest of it's going to be a lot different. Also, next up, I'm almost done with Sony stuff. Death Stranding 2 on the beach, speaking of Hideo Kojima. That's his game from last year, which is on PlayStation 5. They're porting it to the PC next month on March 19th. He's going to have extra graphics options. He's going to have enhanced frame rate options and ultra widescreen going on to itself. As we're going to Bridge Zone. Bridge Zone is seen as one of the favorite levels of people in this game, especially for the music. It's nice music. As we're kind of in the mountain area, but there is water around as far as seeing the choppers coming out and the buzz bombers shooting around. Just walking along the bridge in this case, but some of them collapse like this. It does slow down the game. You are seeing that a little, so it does have some technical elements going on. In this case, you also have the teeter-totters jump on these and the weight there. You let it come down further, you will have more of a bounce. You use that to get the checkpoint. The music is pretty pleasing, I'll say that. And it's something where a lot of fans of Sonic tend to say, like, this might be one of the best pieces of music in the entire franchise. And maybe one of those underrated. But there are parts of the bridge that are broken, so you sometimes have to be careful. And it's like, hey, it is a little closed in still. You can look up and down, so it does give you a perspective saying, hey, I can sort of see my surroundings. You're not going to be in too many cases where you're going to say, oh, I got to take a leap of faith. But you do have to be careful because the spring can push you back. Also, if I get hit by an enemy, you always get tossed back. And all of them is kind of far you get tossed back. And if you get hit, you lose all your rings, but also you can't collect the rings you drop. So it's almost like the mushroom in Mario. You just get hit by that, and you just go small. But there's the Chaos Emerald here, and the way to get it is you take the bridge that's collapsed and step on this one, let it fall down, and before it falls down, before you die, jump over there, get it, you got it. Alright, so we're done with that, and I guess I'll go through this in the special stages. I'm getting every single one of as it is so far, because why not? Next up for Sony is Ghost Yotei. It's getting a multiplayer expansion to itself. It came out last year. It's called Ghost Yotei Legends. It's out on March 10th. Then they have Kena Scars of Kazmura. It's a sequel to Kena Bridge of Spirits that came out a couple years ago, which is out later this year for the PlayStation 5 and PC. Also, some PlayStation Plus stuff as far as retro games, including one case I'm really happy to see. It's actually Namco's doing a lot of support for that. One is they're porting Tekken Dark Resurrection from PSP to the PlayStation 4 and 5 later this year. I think May is the suggestion. And also, I think it's March. Namco's porting Time Crisis. And you're like, wait, that's a light gun game. How are they doing that one? Well, they're going to have gyro controls for PlayStation 4 and 5. So it means that's our way to show that light gun game. There was I think there was a kickstarted project as far as like a modern light gun case, but in this case, like, oh great, we get to show this, and I played Time Crisis, particularly in the arcade. It's pretty fun. I'm not as familiar as some other light gun shooting games like Carnival or House of the Dead or something like that, but I played it a couple times. It's pretty fun. The fact that there's a modern release that you actually play on a modern TV, yeah, sign me up, brother. I'm definitely going to take that, and I'll be set. Like, I do want to get through this. Whoa, but you can also kind of go through that if you go fast enough. Whoa. And the other thing they announced, I was very happy about this, was something that was rumored for the past couple weeks. Rayman 30th Anniversary Edition is a collection for Rayman 1. We did show it once on the show, years ago. And we got to come back to doing it. And this is going to be the release we're going to do. It's out now digitally on Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC. As we're getting an auto-scrolling level of a Sonic game. That's weird. And there is Edwag playing UFO 50. He loves UFO 50. I love UFO 50. We got to figure out how we show that game. There are 50 games that are pretty meaty. We got to show it. It's fantastic. Not what UFO 50 buy it. It's terrific. But also Rayman 30th Anniversary, just to go on that briefly. It is re-releasing Rayman 1. It is from Digital Clips who's doing this. And it's going to be taking a couple versions of Rayman 1. It's taking Rayman 1 from the PlayStation 1, from the Atari Jaguar, the Game Boy Color, and the Game Boy Advance. And they're also adding the MS-DOS version, which has all of these extra level packs that came out for it, which is hundreds and hundreds of levels, which is amazing. And in fact, also, it's modern emulation, or more emulation going on of Atari Jaguar. That's a good thing, because that console's insanely hard to emulate from what I've understood. But yeah, they're coming out with that now. You can get it digitally, but you can also wait and get a physical version in a few months. Also, you make that bounce up there. That's the checkpoint, is I didn't make it. So in that case, we're going to have to go the low way. And also, the other thing about this collection that's going to be interesting is they are actually including the prototype of the game was in development for the Super Nintendo. And as well as developer interviews and a remastered soundtrack. And I guess they'll have the original soundtrack. I hope they do, because the man who did the original music, which is lovely, unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He died actually pretty young of cancer. That was Remy Gazel. But they are taking his music, they're redoing it, but I believe that since they are porting these older versions, it is going to be the original music on top of remasters. I think what it's going to be is going to be like the Croc HD release, where they have the original music, but those are the remastered stuff. I think that's where they're going to go. I'm definitely going to get this. We will show it as far as the show. Also, the reason we'll show it on the show that way is because Rayman 1 was a game where Ubisoft came out and openly said, we didn't have time to playtest this thing, which is the reason why it gets so bullshit hard later on. But there are options for rewinds, there's options for infinite lives and infinite continues, and nobody's going to look down on you if you use those. We might have to, but I said I will definitely practice. And for this one, you do have to kind of go down the way. You do want to go down the second one, or try to. There's a life. The other one disappears, by the way, when you go past. Also, there are flippers here, which you can bounce on, but it's also not easy to get those going. But alright, down there in the center, that's where the continue is, but I didn't make it. It's either way. Yeah, the only thing about Rayman 30th Anniversary, which we're pointing out, and this is something Crusader64 was kind of annoyed by, he said, like, wait a second, why is it a collection of just this one game? Which is fair. I mean, you think, like, well, could they put Rayman 2, The Great Escape in there? Yeah, they probably could have. And what about Rayman 3, Hoodlum Havoc? I mean, that one, I don't know if they have to license the voice acting again, because remember, there was famous voice acting in that game of Billy West and John Leguizamo in particular. And there is modern releases of actually both of those, in the sense that Rayman 2, the Nintendo 64 version, is ported to Switch Online. And by the way, for this battle, come down here, take advantage of the roll. Basically hold down when you're in the divot there, or a button comes up, you'll never get hit, and you're going to win. So it's not too bad at all. And Rayman 3, it is available on Xbox One, Series S, and X. You can still download. They made the 360 release of that backwards compatible, and it's also on PS3 if you want to get that. So there are ways to get those, but still the question is saying, like, well, why not do a collection's worth? Fair. So I can't, I mean, I understand that idea. Maybe that's the next thing. I don't know if it's a question like, hey, the drifting people saying, like, are they going to buy this, and then we go to something later. Hopefully. And also, it's worth pointing out, a lot of these editions are different. And the one that's not in this collection is going to be on Sega Saturn, which there's not a whole lot different. The only thing really different, I think, is just some of the music, which is, as we go into Jungle Zone, like when you get to the end of the level, it goes the, yeah! Which it has on the Saturn, but it doesn't have that on the PlayStation version. But that version of the music is on the disc on the PlayStation 1 version, so don't ask me how that happened. I don't know if they made a mistake or something for that. But point is that there are some little differences as far as how they go. And actually, that's also been the case with Rayman 2, because Rayman 2 has a lot of differences across a lot of versions of itself. So, I don't know, maybe they do that, but it's another digital clips joint, and they've been on fire recently, so I think they're doing pretty good on this one. And I missed Rayman, so I'm kind of glad to see it coming back again as far as this. So we'll see how it goes with it. Although I'd probably wait for the physical version, not because it's too expensive, I think it's like $20 as far as how it came out, I think. But then again, it's also something that it's out in June, so in that case, maybe you want to wait. Anyway, it says, like, hey, it's another classic game compilation. Like, I guess I need to stop buying these, like, right away. Like, I can wait. And digital clips is always good as far as those re-releases, as far as the digital versions that come, but also then with the, ouch, physical version. Okay, that was preemptive ouch. I thought I was going to get myself hit by that, but I did not. And I guess also there's problems with this collection coming out, because to be fair, as much as I'm effusive on digital clips, we'll show in May they're not bulletproof with Midway Treasures 3, but also the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, the digital version of that did have problems when it came out. I didn't get that problem because I bought it physically, but still, in case like, hey, maybe it does pay to wait. But actually, I do need to go down here, because yeah, the Chaos Emerald is down here in Jungle Zone. It's very jaunty and nice music. Now, For this one, what you want to do is you want to jump over here and that log. Jump on the log and you run across it. I do love the jaunty music. It's so nice. Okay, there we go. So that's the third one. Alright, and there's one other thing also they showed for, what is it? For Sony, which they also showed Nintendo. Resident Evil Requiem. That is out only in a couple of weeks. That is out on, it's the, February 27th. I keep thinking it's 26th. No, it's February 27th. Resident Evil 9. Yeah, celebrating 30 years of Resident Evil. I guess I'll jump the gun, because that's also on Nintendo's side of things, where they announced, the amiibos. They're gonna go for, Grace Ashcroft and for Leon Kennedy, as well as the Switch 2 Pro controller that's going on with it, and also the fact that they showed the gameplay of, Grace for the first time. They said, hey, we want to mix the old survival horror style with the action stuff. So basically the idea is that Grace is going to be doing the, survival horror, like finding keys and solving puzzle stuff, and trying to escape from the zombies, like in the olden ones. But then Leon Kennedy, he's going to be back. He's going to play, like, the action style that Resident Evil 4 or 5 had. So, kind of get the best of both worlds. And you can play it in third person and first person. So if you like the first person stuff of Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, and Resident Evil 8 Village, yeah, you're in for a treat that way. Or you can play it third person the whole way. Your choice. It's coming out on everything. It's coming out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, PC, and Switch 2. And, yeah, a lot of people I know are looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to it, too, because, yeah, it does look really nice. And it looks like it's going to be a fun time. But speaking of Nintendo, they had a Nintendo Direct of their third-party stuff last week. They went into stuff, and there's stuff I picked up when it came to some of the things they announced and released on the day of the Direct. And also, for the next part of Bridge Zone, I'm going to go on one thing, because they changed this for the better over the Sega Master System version, because for this one, like in that one, you have to make a climb going up. It seems pretty simple, right? Here's the deal, though. On Sega Master System, when you go up, the screen's scrolling, but the idea is that when you're off screen, everything down there is a pit, so if I fall down there, I would have been killed if we were playing the Sega Master System version. Even though the grass is sort of visible, I would have died doing that. Game Gear says, no, you don't have to worry about that. Which is nice. That was... Honestly, I never played the Sega Master System version. But if you make a fall, it's like, yeah, why do I die doing that? So that's a change I can definitely get behind as far as them fixing that. Or basically enhancing it for this version. Okay, as far as what we saw on Nintendo, first off of the gate, we saw Orbitals. We saw this at the Game Awards a couple months ago. It's a co-op puzzle game that has an animation style that's very much like 90s Japanese anime. Particularly stuff like Sailor Moon or Gundam Wing or Neon Genesis Evangelion or stuff like that, where it has this kind of almost, not stop motion, it's kind of stop motion as far as how it is going, but it fits really nicely with how the action is. It looks really cool. It seems like it's a fun time as far as what they're showing. That's online, but also is local for cooperative play. It's out this summer for Switch 2, only on Switch 2, so it is exclusive as far as that. Then next week is a game I was not aware of, and it's just a sequel to something that I also was not aware of. That is Paranormicite, The Mermaid's Curse. There's a game called Paranormicite. It was published by Square. It was an adventure visual novel game, not similar to something like Another Code or, I guess Famicom Detective Club or maybe Phoenix Wright a little bit. It kind of looks like a bit of a mix of stuff like that, but also a little bit of Subnautica, which we're pointing out the Subnautica games are getting switched to enhancements themselves soon enough. But it seems like a really interesting thing about itself, and it's out pretty quick on February 19th, so it seems like it could be something really interesting, kind of like your twisty stories and with nice puzzles going on along with it. That is for the Switch original, but also plays on Switch 2. Same case with Captain Tsubasa World Fighters. That is the new game based on the anime, as far as it's about the soccer player, football player, as is. It's a sports RPG the way the other one was. It is coming out later this year for Switch 1. Then they showed one that's also kind of interesting, one that's out now. That is Tokyo Scramble. It's also kind of a survival horror game. You have to hide away from dinosaurs, and usually if they see you, you're gonna die. You basically have no way out if they catch you, so you have to kind of really be stealthy as you go along and hide. It almost looks a little bit like, it's funny, Ultra94T said to me one time, it's like, I'm waiting for Sega to get around to doing a sequel to Alien Isolation, which is a really good game. And it's another survival horror game where you have to run away from a creature that is insanely overpowered and will kill you if you get close. That kind of looks like that, except in this case you also have an option for co-op. You play it solo, yes, but you also have a co-op option. And I think they even have game share option for it on Switch too, for the purpose of running that. It's kind of cool as far as what that is. And you gotta avoid dinosaurs. Yeah, it's not like Dino Crisis where you can shoot them down or something like that, or Jurassic Park or something like that. Which, by the way, not Switch Direct or Nintendo Direct indicated, but the Jurassic Park Classic Games Collection is getting delisted on March 31st, so if you want that, go get it. I probably will. For that very reason. But there's a physical version that you can find online for not insanely expensive. But that being said, Tokyo Scramble's out now. It actually looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, as far as how it goes. Then they showed Valheim. This was on PC. It was a Viking survival game. Switch 2 is getting a version of this. It's out later this year. And then, as far as the stuff that is also out now, Hollow Knight. We played that, we demoed it for our Switch 2 Chronicles. Back then, I said, okay, let's see how Switch 2 runs this natively. And it's a really good Metroidvania-like game, as we're going to go to the boss here. And also go in the water, also good luck getting out of the water. The water's not easy to get out of here. Okay, so this is going to take some time just for the purpose that, okay, got lucky. You do have to hit that lip just specifically, so it's kind of hard to get in a case of that. I'm going to climb my way up. The Hollow Knight got a Switch 2 version of itself. Basically got an upgrade for it. It is free if you have it on Switch like I do. Or if you didn't, you can buy the whole kit and caboodle. And it's a really good game. I gotta play that game more, and I think we should probably do that for the show at some point. And in this case, Robotnik's gonna shoot out the deadly ball. If you hit it, you're gonna die. Even with the shield I have, I'm gonna die if I hit that, so I don't want to do that. Well, shit. Okay, never mind. The shield does protect you from it, so fuck what I just said. I thought it didn't. There's certain things it doesn't protect you, but alright, in that case, you're good. Make the jump. Make sure you don't miss the jump, otherwise you're dying, and we got it. But yeah, Hollow Knight's got a free Switch 2 upgrade, or you can just buy it as far as the game and have the Switch 2, which enhances the frame rate and enhances the graphics. And you can't argue with the price for free if you already own it. And now we're going to Labyrinth Zone. This was in Sonic 1 as far as Genesis, but it's a lot different here. There's a little more of a jazzy, kind of maybe more, I don't know, maybe more, potentially threatening sound. It just sounds really nice. The guy definitely has a nice groove. Okay, next up on the line here, it is the same case as the other one, just to go into as far as on Genesis, which is, it's the water level, you go slow, you have to kill the jaws that are underneath that, you have to go and find air bubbles, otherwise you're going to drown. As far as it, you have to use that to keep yourself going. Enjoys the nice semi-gothic architecture that's lying around. But it does go slow, so yeah, you have to be careful where those air pockets are. They're right there as far as where the bubbles are, so wait till they come out and get that set and launch off. Yeah, next up was eFootball Kickoff. That is the new football soccer game from Konami, of the artist formerly known as Pro Evolution Soccer and formerly known before that as Winning 11 Soccer. It's coming to Switch 2 this summer. It's a case where when they went to the sort of free-to-play direction, I don't know if this one's free-to-play, it might not be, people really didn't like it. I do really like the Winning 11 games, actually further back than that even. International Superstar Soccer that goes back to the Super Nintendo era, and I have the Nintendo 64 one, which is a great game. I'd love to show that at some point, which we will. Let's see. Come on. And you just get a beeping, not just the sound of the drowning music going with that case. Oh, okay, we're set. But also beware of the spikes over there coming out of the ground. In this case, I'm supposed to stop at everything so I can get myself not drowning. Next up was something we saw before from Square. This is The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennium Tales. It's for Switch 2. It's the new RPG that is coming out. We have a date now. It's out on June 18th. It also indicated bonuses if you have save files of other Square RPGs on the console. I believe Octopath Traveler's amongst those. I thought maybe some... Final Fantasy Chronicles... No, Final Fantasy Tactics, Evil's Chronicles. It has Chronicles and Tactics in it, that's why I got confused, like, oh shit, no! Okay, there you go. So there's also, if you jump out of the water, as far as that, you'll be safe. Perfect. It's worth pointing out, of course, it's going to be on a Game Key card, because a lot of stuff with Squares is on Switch 2, but still, It does look really good, and it is nice to see something unique out of them as far as a new intellectual property. Not the old stuff they do is bad, far from it. It's great. But still seeing what they have as far as like a new concept, and it does look like a lot of fun. In this case, you just hit the switch in order to make the jump over here. And we're set. Yeah, this guy's over here now. Okay, next up is a game I bought already, because they released it on the day digitally. It's coming out physically in August, but it's another Konami collection, and it's one they did really well. In fact, I have it on the line on my Switch 2 here. Is the Super Bomberman collection. They brought out Super Bomberman from Super Nintendo, but here's the deal. There are only 2 of those released in the US. When we played Bomberman World on the PlayStation, we talked about those. Yeah, because Super Bomberman 1 and 2 came out on Super Nintendo in the US. There's Super Bomberman 3 that was in Europe and Japan only. Then 4 and 5, Super Bomberman 4 and 5 were only in Japan. They're in this collection. They are fully translated for the first time into English. Like, oh my god, that's awesome. It costs $20 on the Switch, Xbox Series S and X, PC, and PS5. But on Switch 2, it's $25, and the reason for that is because they added, what was it? They added, as I went through that thing, if you're going fast enough, the collision detection doesn't exist as far as those things. But the Switch 2 version has game share, so you have multiplayer sharing with people who don't have the game. And also 4K graphics, but Super Nintendo games, generally speaking. So question how much you need that. Also, it has Bomberman 1 and 2 from NES in the box as well. It's really cool, and I said I want to get more indication going on more Bomberman releases. I know Kazim22 was saying, where's Saturn Bomberman? Where's the 64 Bomberman games? Or the Nintendo 64 ones? Like, yeah, good question, so I guess the question going next. But in that case, I did my part by buying this, and also because it's a case where I don't own any of those games. I never played any of them. So in that case, given how much some of those go for, and that most of them didn't come out here, or actually, 3 of them didn't come out here, I should say, 7. So it's not most. I said, okay, that's totally worth the money for me. Now, there's a question saying, do I want to buy the Switch 2 version? If you buy the Switch 1 version, you can upgrade to the Switch 2 one for $5 more. I said, why not? Because also it means that if people want to play this thing, as far as multiplayer, which is always a fun time with Bomberman, they can do that. But that being said, as we're pointing out, these games use the multi-tap for Super Nintendo for multiplayer. I think you're getting shortchanged the player as far as it, because I think it's 4-player only, as opposed to 5 on Super Nintendo. But that being said, so far it's a really nice collection, and I'm very happy with it. But I'll tell you the thing I'm even more happy about, but I'm not happy that it's only in Japan for now. So Konami, I'm begging you, I'd love to see this one re-released, or translated for English, especially if you did it for Super Bomberman Collection. This was announced in the Japanese Nintendo Direct, to a point. We didn't get the announcement at the time. But I found out about this, like, oh my god, it's something I mentioned a few months ago. I said, you know what, there's a couple things like Konami I'm waiting on. I'm saying, I'm looking for a re-release of Snatcher, which, I don't know, maybe after Metal Gear Solid Snatcher Collection Volume 2? Maybe when they get that one in Policenauts, perhaps? Because Policenauts never came out here. But they're releasing games in the Gambari Goemon collection. We played Mystical Ninja Star and Goemon for Nintendo 64 years ago. That was an amazing game. One of my favorites on the system. One of my favorite underrated games on the system. They're releasing the Gambari Goemon Daishugo collection. It is a 13-game collection from Konami and M2, as far as who's doing the porting. That is bringing out 13 games in the series, ranging back from the Famicom days all the way up to the Game Boy Color. As far as the games on it that the US got, it has The Legend of Mystical Ninja from Super Nintendo, and it has Mystical Ninja starring Goemon from the Game Boy. So far, unfortunately, they have not said they're going to be putting that out as far as in the US. I hope they do. I'd love to see that come around. I'll say this, if they do not release it in the US, it's coming out, by the way, in Japan on July 3rd on PlayStation 5 and Switch. If they do not re-release it or release it in the US, I wouldn't play it. I want to play that so bad. And most of the games that have never been re-released. And I'll look as far as understanding, because I love that franchise. Of the ones I've played, and even the ones I've seen, I just love like the aura of what that series is. I mentioned we played it, saying it's one of those things that's insanely strange. It totally embraces its cultural and Japanese influences proudly. But it's also something that, in some ways, that kind of makes it infectious. Like, yeah, you know what? I mentioned it's one of those games that you could almost look as a reflection of, like, the idea of, like, being very motivational for anybody really has like 19 lives somehow, as far as how it's going. And that is the idea that live your life the way you want, as it says in the intro for the theme song of the Nintendo 64 game, and says, or find that Nintendo 64 game, and says, you know what, I'm gonna be myself, and people are gonna love it. And I think that's the idea. Like, I love it absolutely for that very reason. So I'm hoping, as far as that, and then maybe then releasing the. Is going to start Goemon for Nintendo 64, Goemon's Great Adventure, also for Nintendo 64, which I do have. And Mr. Goemon is on the Arcade Archives as far as the first Goemon game. And we're into Act 3. Also, you do not need to breathe underwater. It's totally underwater, but don't worry, Sonic's not going to drown. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go try and get the life. Hopefully not die. Yes, I'm very happy as far as that. Konami, if you're listening, please, I'd love to have that brought over to the US and translated, because there are a lot of people I know who love this franchise, even just from playing the ones we got. As I said, we only got 5 in the US, but of all those, like, yeah, they're really cool, and I want to play another one. Hell, I'd almost be willing to second chance Mystical Ninja starring Goemon to release that again, or just maybe just in general because I want it. Even though I love that game and played it fully before. Maybe bring somebody else in. Okay, for Robotnik, here's pointing out what you gotta do is he's gonna go in the center and he's going to shoot out the arrows or the bullets. He'll also come down here, also shoot down a rocket or a missile or a torpedo. Basically, wait till it comes down up there and jump. You can also go over this way and jump and then hit him like thrice and you'll be set. But don't be right underneath him because otherwise you're gonna get hit by the torpedo. And then rinse and repeat. The other thing is stand right here and then crouch, and then those bullets will not hurt you. You can make that jump, you just have to be careful as far as doing it is all. And he's done. As far as the next thing we had, as far as the partner stuff of Nintendo Directs, they showed off Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Remake just came out on Switch 2 a month ago. But they're getting the next one ready for Switch 2 and also for Xbox Series S and X. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out on June 3rd, so not too far of a wait. And also they confirmed, like, how's this going to go? One of my coworkers, Eric, he mentioned, he said, this is going to melt people's Switch 2s, given how big a game it is on the other systems. Well, it's 102 gigabytes on Switch 2 if you're going to be downloading it as a scrap brain zone. A lot different than how it is on the Genesis, but also a case where it is going to be a little bit of stuff you got to worry about as far as fire coming up, caterpillars, of course, being in the way, and the electric bolt machines. Also, doors, we're pointing out. You see the little orange divots there on the left side here. They might also be on the right side. If they're on both sides, as far as that, you can go through the door any way you want. If they're only on one side, you basically go in the one way and then can't go in the other way. Also, in this case, be careful when because the conveyor belts, because they will change direction and you can get yourself flying off the deck. So in that case, because it's on both sides, you can go in and out as far as that. But in this case, we have the buzzing stuff going on that move. Basically, just jump right over. Whoa. This level doesn't want you dead as much as the Genesis game. It's still a case where it is kind of more of a maze, so I guess it's fitting to put this with Sonic Labyrinth, honestly. I will say it especially in the next part of it. Also, for the doors that have the little dots in the center, they're controlled by Switch. Basically, step on that and you go. You also get that nice sound as far as the fire going on. It sounds very toothy. Even for like an 8-bit sound, it sounds pretty nice. And that's all you gotta do. Although, it's worth pointing out, you do not get special stages on Scrap Brain Zone or the next zone, which is just like how the Genesis version went. But as far as other stuff, going back, it's 102 gigs as far as the size on Switch 2 for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Makes sense. So it's going to be in a game key card. It kind of has to be because they don't have cards above 64 gigabytes. And there's one thing I'm holding in my chest when it comes to something like that. We'll talk that. And trust me, I'm saving that for last. Then Capcom showed off Pragmata. They keep showing that game off. So they're showing off Resident Evil 9 and they're showing off that. Like, they want people to know it. And it looks pretty cool. We've seen that thing a couple times. It's almost like a action sort of puzzler game, a little, in the sense that you have this young android girl who's joining you, and the bond that you're forming. It looks really nice. And there's a free demo out of it now. Again, it is out on April 24th on everything. And after Resident Evil Requiem comes out, I think that's going to be the next case of Capcom saying that's the next big game, and it's looking good so far. Now, for getting the Chaos Emerald here, and getting the other level, we do have to do some specific things. The first thing we want to do is you want to top here. And after I explain this, then I'll go into the next couple things. I don't have a whole lot left as far as what to go into, but there are things I do want to talk about. Okay. Now, to get the Chaos Emerald, you need to jump down. Okay, don't do that. I died. Actually, I think it's the first time I've died tonight, as far as on this game. And also, if you do die, you have checkpoints as far as when you go on the doors. In this case, I just need to be careful as far as the fire. Just jump, and then wait. Basically, go down the third one. It's not in the bottomless pit. The other two are. But if you go in here, go to the door, you go through this transporter. Come up here. There's the Chaos Emerald. You got it. But before you go down, you need to avoid the ball hogs, like in the Genesis game. But also, you have to open the door as far as where you're going to the end. Because here's the deal. We jump up here. Yeah, we're going to have to make a roundabout way to come through here, and in order to get to the end of the level, we need to go through this door. But in this case, this is open. So I hit the switch, it closes this one, opens that one. So do that, and then we're going back down. I need to find rings, because if I get hit again, I'm going to die. And I don't want that to happen. And you do hold the emerald when you die, so you don't have to worry about that. But I don't remember if it holds the hitting of the switch. It might, but I'm not going to chance that. In this case, we go down the bottom way, and that's going to be our way out. Also, next on the line is Turok Evolution, or I said Turok Evolution, not Turok Evolution. That came out in 2002. That'd be hilarious if they were remastering that, but so far not yet. Turok Origins. That's the new one. It's the third-person take of Turok, the franchise going back to days of Vertigo. No, it's not Vertigo Comics. Valiant Comics. Sorry, it is with a V as far as what it is. Yeah, which then became a semi-prolific franchise in the Nintendo 64 era, and then Turok Evolution came out. It was not well received. It did not sell well. Then Turok came out from Disney for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. You jump over here and then go through this. But this is a third-person shooter. There are some co-op aspects. We are going to take down dinosaurs, as is usually the case in the franchise, but also the alien creatures going on. It's out this fall for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, Switch 2, and PC. That looks pretty interesting. And a case of coming back to a franchise as far as that. Also, yeah, Sonic can get running. You have to basically jump your way up. In that case, just keep going, and we'll get to the end, no problem. Yeah, next up, as I mentioned, yeah, I mentioned. Yeah, I did mention that, right? Okay, I guess I did play in this show. I swear to God, which I didn't actually realize. Yeah, Romancia Dragon Slayer Jr. As I mentioned, that was the first game that Yuzo Koshiro did the music for. There's a new game in the franchise coming out. That is Kyoto Xanadu. It's from Nihon Falcom, the people who made the Ys games. It is an action RPG, but it also has elements of a Metroidvania, and it also has elements of like a school social sim of sorts, almost like Persona a little bit. Never played that. And we're going to preview one of those, by the way, for our scoping session this year, that being Persona 3 from the PlayStation 2. And we are going to look at the PlayStation 2 version, the FES version, as it was requested. But anyway, it's coming out this summer. It actually looks kind of interesting. It's a Metroidvania. It also looks kind of like an action RPG. It's kind of wearing a lot of unique hats. And I didn't know it was a part of that franchise. And Nihon Falcom, they, generally speaking, do some good stuff. And they also made Pop Mail. I showed off the PC-88 version of that on a Switch 2 Chronicles show, which is actually a lot of fun. And you can download that on Switch, even though it's all in Japanese. It's terrific. Then we saw a game that came out last year that's getting Switch and Switch 2 editions of itself. That is Digimon Story Time Stranger. That is by Mediavision, the people who made Wild Arms. And from what I understood, the game is actually really, really good. So the fact that Switch 1 and 2 are getting it is pretty nice. We're pointing out it is a game keycard on Switch 2. We can fall down here, also in real life. May as well show everything. And it's an Act 3, by the way, that has rings. So in this case, yeah, you don't have to worry about going through here without rings. But like the last stage, it is kind of a maze. You have to get your way out towards. And it's worth pointing out, Digimon Story Time Strangers out on Switch 1 and 2 on July 10th. But it is also on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and PC now if you want to get it on those. But if you want to have the portable option of it, you can have it that way as well. It is game keycard for the Switch 2 version, and you can also buy the Switch 2 upgrade if you buy it on Switch 1 if you so desire. Then they showed off Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, a co-op action RPG that's coming out on Switch on July 9th. And basically just have to follow them up there. There's no boss here. Also, the next section, by the way, is the reason we're playing this game on the Sonic Origins Collection and not on Mega Collection Plus. Because there would be flashing light warnings. There was the first time we played this, running it on that. This one, they tone it down a bit because there's going to be lightning strikes in the air. I don't think I have to put the warning on this one, honestly. It's just good. Basically, it does quick flashing on Game Gear and on the other collection. But this one, it basically slows down the flash. You'll see. I mean, just a little bit of a light. I don't know how much of a flashing light that is, but compared to it going really quickly, and also we're pointing out one other thing. We hit the start button. That's pausing. Okay, no. Wait a second. Let me do this. Right, if you pause it, it basically will then do the flashing on, but it's way more rapid as far as the original release. This one, they kind of toned it down, so, okay, it seems like the way to go. Those are the Orbinauts, so gotta be careful of those, or say, wait a bit. This game does slow down here, that's what we're pointing out. In that case, I think I'm gonna do the roll across. Go avoid the bombs from Starlight Zone from the first game on Genesis. Oh, shit! But unfortunately, I risked it and got myself killed. But that's okay, we're almost at the end. As far as the next case, we're almost done as far as this for Switch's case. Monster Hunter Stories 3 Twisted Reflection. We keep seeing this also out of Capcom. It is a free demo out now for Switch 2. It is out exclusively for Switch 2 on March 16th. Ouch, shit. In that case, I'll also go here. Yeah, this game slows down a lot, and yeah, I'm getting myself killed completely here. Alright, and then as far as some retro stuff, I mentioned the arcade archives as far as that with Mr. Goemon and just in general that Hamster Corporation does. I always keep an eye on those, and I mentioned, hey, they keep re-releasing System 22 releases of Namco's as far as arcade games of theirs, like Aquajet. I went nuts when that happened, and Ridge Racer, and Air Combat 22, and the tank one. I don't remember what the tank one is. In that case, you also watch out for the cannons. The next one's out on February 26th. That's Rave Racer. That is the final Ridge Racer game for the arcade. There was also a model that they modeled Rage Racer for the PlayStation after. So it's another one of those. It means that we're closer to the System 22 port I'd like to see the most now that we've got Aquajet and all those Ridge Racer games, and that is Pop Cycle. Please, Hamster Corporation, make it happen. Namco, make it happen. I think it's only a matter of time. Believe my heart of hearts, eventually we're gonna get it. But one thing we're getting that I did not expect was a new line for Hamster Corporation. Along with Arcade Archive, they have a new thing called Console Archives. They're taking console games. They're gonna put them out as far as specific releases. And they're gonna go up to Robotnik's Blimp. They released 2, as I got a ring, so I'm glad I got to show that one. The other one you can see is a life, as far as how it is. The 2 that released for our console archives to start are Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos from NES, which is on Switch Online already, but if you want to have an ownership case of it, it's $8. And the other one is Cool Borders 1 from the PlayStation, which is $12. I bought that one because I said, hey, it's cheaper than getting it on the PlayStation 1. Also, remember, you have to make a little bit of a leap of faith going down here, or, yeah, like that. So, alright, that's a case of leap of faith, and even the scroll down doesn't help you. So you have to ride this for a long time in order to go and get the Chaos Emerald. And I have to be careful of potentially off-screen cannon shots, but what you can do to avoid that is you basically find these floating platforms here, and then you jump on the next one in the line. You do have to do that eventually as you go. But also, if you jump up enough, you can at least get a sense like where that cannon is, so you know, like, what do I do as far as, you know, avoid getting myself shot? And you don't have rings here, so you have to be careful. I got myself killed here a lot when we did this last time. Oh no! Whoa, I was thinking, can I avoid that for the last now? Yeah, but I did buy Cool Borders. It is hilarious. Maybe for all the wrong reasons, but it's a case where, yeah, it is the game from WEP Systems. Okay, I always called it UEP Systems, people develop it, but they pronounce it in the intro and voices as WEP Systems. Okay? Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's also 90s as anything. They also announced other console archives games they're gonna do. They're gonna do Doraemon for the Famicom, Nobunaga's Ambition from Koei for NES, or the NES version in particular of that. Magmax, which was a Famicom game. I think it was a Famicom. No, it was Famicom. I was trying to remember if it came out in the US. I don't think it did. Well, in this case, I'm gonna jump so I get the cannons on screen so I can at least see where the bullets are coming from. So honestly, they only shoot like in increments of 3, so in that case, not too bad. They're also releasing Master of Monsters, Disciples of Gaia, which is on the PlayStation. Monster Rancher Hop About, also on the PlayStation. Desigmon Plus for the PlayStation. One I'm surprised they're releasing. I'm happy to see it, but I think it means I guess it's another version of this game I gotta buy. Rhapsody Musical Adventure, which I do want to play on the show, but it is on Switch already in the Nipponichi Classics Collection Volume 3, but they're re-releasing that, and I guess PlayStation 5 is probably gonna get it, because that doesn't have a PlayStation 5 version of itself, and I do want to show that game. I showed it sort of when we did our Sings video, as far as the intro. They're also releasing Sonic Wing Special for the PlayStation 1 and Saturn, and UFO Day in the Life also for the PlayStation 1. They're coming out later on. But, but that's the idea of what Console Archives is looking like. So, new method of classic gaming. Always down with that. And they had a quick sizzle reel and a bunch of stuff that's coming out, but alright, I gotta be careful here. Oh, there you go. Yeah, because the cannon itself won't hurt you, it's just the bullets. Yeah, fine, I gotta make the jump. Oh, after I make the jump, we'll do it. And since I did show... Okay, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do 2 things. I'm gonna... Okay, there you go. Jump here, and there's the Chaos Emerald. Actually, I'm gonna do one thing. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a save here. I'll tell you why. I'm gonna kill myself because I want to show the rest of this level. I'm gonna show this level every way, and I'm gonna reload this, and we'll go to the end. It's worth pointing out, if you do die, it does hold the emerald, but I want to show a couple things. Because there's 2 ways to this level that I did. Well, one way I showed last time, one I didn't. So if you're going the normal way, what you gotta do is you gotta go this way. But also, if you want to take a massive... Okay, get shot. Sorry. And then after that, I'll go into, the rest of it, as far as... And then that'll be it. I think at that point, that basically the end as far as the show. Now, if you want to take a massive shortcut to this level and keep getting killed, I said, yeah, you know what, I gotta be careful as far as how it is. But I guess it's a case where, even with the way the screen is set better compared to the Sega Master System version, the fact of the matter is the Game Gear's screen resolution is kind of low, so it's something where you do have to be set as far as it. But if you do want to take a massive shortcut, I mean it this time. Take a jump over here, roll. Don't hit the bullet. Go in here. That's a speedrun method as far as how it is. I just want to show one thing. First off, there's the life, so you get a life doing that. I think that might be on time. Yeah, you get 300,000 points on the back of that. You know, I'll let that go the hallway, and then I'll reload the save. Because that'll show going the hallway as far as through the level. And then also from where we ended and when it got. Just show the idea that, yeah, that is a case where you're going to get tons of lives off of this, because every 50,000 points, by the way, is a life. Okay. Now, in this case, it'll give me time to go through the rest of the stuff. They had a scissor reel of stuff coming out soon. Scott Pilgrim EX, that is the sequel to Scott Pilgrim vs. the World from Tribute Games. Those are the people who made Marvel Cosmic Invasion and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. It's out on March 3rd. I know Edwag is going nuts about that one. Then Another Eden Begins is getting a Nintendo Switch 2 version itself this summer. Reanimal, it's the latest game from People Made Little Nightmares. That is out now. WWE 2K6, or 2K26, not 2K16. WWE 2K26 is out on March 13th. Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown is out on, wait, let me load this again. Alright, so let's get shot and we'll show the rest of the level. Yeah, Star Trek Voyager Across the Unknown is out on February 18th, so not too long now. Disney Dreamlight Valley is getting a Switch 2 version of itself, which from what I understand, definitely be used because that game is pretty damn pokey. It's out on March 25th, and it's a free upgrade, by the way, if you want it on Switch 1. I know one of my coworkers has the Switch version. He's like, no, his wife has the Switch version. He bought the PS5 version. He's like, yeah, when she plays, he's like, this game runs horribly. It's like, well, okay, now with the Switch 2, you can make it run better. And it's a free upgrade, which is always nice. Whoa. Crap, it fell. If nothing else, you're seeing all the ways you can die and why this level can be pretty dangerous. Then there's PGA Tour 2K26, that is out now. As far as the new PGA Tour golf game from 2K. Let's see. Cult Set Begins is getting a Switch 2 version itself on July 16th. Actually fitting, because Cult Set is a kind of a strategy board game-like thing. Also, don't hit those fans, otherwise you're going to get yourself killed, because there's no range here, by the way. Hence why I'm dying so much. Yeah, it does have music by, Yuzo Koshiro. Shit, I forgot! Right, they put the bombs here, so this shows the challenges which you have to do while I have the spike wall coming up for you, which I did not show the last time I played this, so that's why I'm doing it. Goat Simulator 3 is coming to Switch, too. That is on April 1st. It's your April Fool's Day game. I'm getting shot again. I don't care, honestly, because it means I can get through this. Shadow Tactics Blaze of the Shogun is out next month on March 18th. Tales of Arise is getting a Switch 2 version of itself. That is Tales of Arise Beyond the Dawn Edition. It's out on March 22nd. It is a Switch 2 game keycard release, but it does have the DLC of the game as well on one nice package. So, that's one aspect. Then Resident Evil Requiem I mentioned, that's coming. Right, here's what you gotta do here. You basically wait, walk up to the bombs, get out of the way so that you don't get yourself hit. And that's not doors, just keep making the run. Yeah, it's kind of going around. Then basically go around this way. This is where you get to the end. Like jump, careful the cannon, that's the end of the stage. I may as well go to it to show that idea, and then I'll reload and we'll just run across. That being said, because I died so much, it does save the Chaos Emerald. So in that case, I also got the life there as well. And I mentioned Resident Evil Requiem, that's out on February 27th, of course. And the last thing, and I'll restart this or load that save, just to be set, because like, that's what we did before. Now we'll go, whoa, you have one save file slot. Shit, I got... Yeah, I was gonna say I got shot. In this case, I am gonna go back. We're just there. I was like, we're so close to the end. I showed how to do it right. Now I'll show how to cheat. So in that case, if you want to cheat and say, hey, you know what? I did this. I don't want to go through this shit again when I die. Go ahead and use that save state. But you only get one as far as a save on that. So just be aware of that. And there's no rewind function. In this case, we'll do this, and we have the last boss. But the last thing they showed as far as the Nintendo Direct, in this case, I got rings. Well, it doesn't give you any. I just realized that. So there you go. They announced that Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, that's on PS5, Series S and X, and PC, is getting a Switch 2 version of itself later this year. And Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition is also coming out on February 24th for Switch 2 as well. We're planning out both of those games' physical versions are codes in the box, just to let you know. And the last thing I'm going to mention, and I can sit here and do this. I mentioned how much I love Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, which we're doing a scoping session of this year, because it's terrific. I also mentioned before this coming to Switch 2, it was announced a while ago that they're going to bring it out. I said, that game I have it on Xbox Series X, but it's also on PlayStation 5 and it's on PC. It's a case where you have to go online and download it in order to play it on anything you have. It's a case where the file size of that game is 150 gigabytes. I said, when it came to Switch 2 announcement, I said, they're gonna have to put that as a game keycard. I know people hate the game keycard concept. I know Edwack has said, I'm not gonna buy any game that has it, including Pokemon Pocopia, so good for him. I mentioned when we played Pokemon Gen 9, I said, there's something this franchise is eventually gonna do to you that is gonna make you not want to buy their games, and goddammit, I was right. Let the record show I was fucking right about that, and give credit to him saying, like, you know what, I'm gonna actually plant my flag in the ground. He said, like, you know what, you talk about your principles, and I usually don't have respect for people who are going to that way. But I said, eventually this franchise is going to do something you're going to say no on. Pokemon Pocopia, that's out in a few weeks, that is on the game keycard, even though the game is only 10 gigs inside. He said, I'm not buying it myself. If Nikki wants it, I might get it digitally, but that's it. But having said that, the reason I bring that up is because Indiana Jones the Great Circle, I said, for that game, it's so huge, and given what that game is doing, I said, I don't chat if you played it on anything. If you haven't, you should, because it's amazing. Even with the idea you have to go online to download the game fully as far as first initialization. I don't like that. I've mentioned that before, but still, the game is good enough, I'll put up with it. Switch 2, they're putting it on the card fully. You're like, how the hell are they doing that? Well, I looked in the eShop after they went into this. They're compressing that game down to 59 gigabytes. They're basically filling the 64 gig card limit of that console for that game. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna buy that game again on Switch 2. Why? I have it on Series X. And on Switch 2, what they've shown in the footage, it is having frame rate to 30 frames per second. True. That being said, I said, I gotta guess this is maybe the fully physical version of this game we're waiting for. And honestly, 30 FPS for that game, even though it's wonderful and it's 60, which we'll show it at. As far as even me buying the Switch 2 version, I'm gonna show the Series X version. Although I guess if I do that, I guess I'll show both sort of as a compare and contrast. It is a cinematic experience reflecting the Indiana Jones movie, because the game, as we'll show when we get to it, is takes place in between Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Raiders of the Lost Ark. But the fact is, they're running 30 FPS that is almost like a movie frame rate. They can keep it consistent. And I have faith in Machine Games. They know what they're doing, generally speaking, when it comes to this. That might be the way to go. As far as that, and being able to play it portably. And the fact that it's fully on card, I said, when it came to these other games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth saying it's 102 gigs on it, I said, they're compressing this game as far as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle down on this, and they're making it fully physical, whereas you have all these other things I mentioned, their game key cards like Tales of Arise, and Pragmata, and Resident Evil Requiem, and Pokemon Pocopia, which is like 10 gigs in size. That one doesn't make sense, as far as how it is. It's sort of kind of Nintendo's involvement as far as the idea is. Like, the fact that they're doing it, I said on the record on the show saying they're not going to be doing this on anything with game key card. I was wrong. And I will openly admit I was wrong on that. I'm kind of glad I was wrong. I'm kind of curious to see now what it is. Also, it's another case of a game I absolutely adore. And that was the last as far as everything for the Nintendo Direct, and also Sony State of Play. Now, final boss time. Flashing light sort of here, though, still. Basically bouncing this. The fire's going to go left, right, center, and Robotnik's going to jump on that button. He's going to send out an electric ball. Hit you, it's death. So right here is the flashing light. I will indicate that here. It's still better than it was in that bar. I got hit by the electricity. And in this case, yeah, at that point, we'll basically be done. There's not going to be much more to show as far as it. But basically what you want to do is take the hits. You take, I think, like 16 hits or so. Is the one fire goes off, then get out of the way. You can kind of move where the electric bolt goes. But just keep an eye as far as both. You basically have to watch the top and you want to watch the bottom. Even enough, there's the stuff going on as far as busting the glass, and then off he runs. I'm almost showing actually letting him go through this. Like, I'm transporting, I'm getting out of here, you're not going to catch me. True, but I'm going after him. So I guess he figured, like, okay, I got away from Sonic, I'm going to take my Egomatic across Green Hill Zone. But in my case, I said, yeah, screw you, I'm coming out of the transporter. I got knocked down. I have all the Chaos Emeralds, and we're going to bring South Island back to its full glory. As we point out, all the Chaos Emeralds are only one color, as far as this one. They're all blue. And there's only 6. In fact, none of the Game Gear Sonic games of any kind have more than 6. And there it goes. So now the Dark Cloud is gone, and we win. And talk about big scores, Dolphin, earlier on. You get points as far as your last minute point tally. You get 20,000 points for every single Chaos Emerald you had. Sonic left is your number of lives. Sonic didn't leave the building. It's just a case of number of lives. You get 5,000 points for each of those. I had 18 as far as that. Great. Yeah, thank you. So in that case, we're going to build our score up that way. And then the last thing is if you do get all of the Chaos Emeralds, you get 150,000 points. And there we go. Our final total is 713,530. That is not the hardest score you can get out of this game, but there you go. That is the idea as far as how it is. And now we're going to go through the credits. We're going to have a little bit of a music show of Sonic reflecting the design of him initially being in a band. That was the initial thought. It's kind of reflecting this. And you get this credits music that was kind of sampled in, sort of in Sonic Labyrinth a little bit, when it was the stage clear music. And then also in Sonic Unleashed. Particularly the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 versions when you go to Shimar, which is the Africa-like way to go around that. They do have kind of a remix of this track. Alright, so there you go. That is Sonic the Hedgehog 1 Game Gear. So yeah, as far as 1 on the Genesis, we did do it years ago, but I think we could do it again. I don't know if I'll do it this year, but I will figure. I just want to at least give a sense as far as what we're looking like on this one. And since Labyrinth was so short, I said, well, let's give a sense of this. And I think we'll probably have a shorter show as far as it. But as far as final thoughts on this one, it is, again, like with Sonic Labyrinth, a unique experience as far as a portable Sonic game. Also, in this case, a unique experience against the original game from Sega Genesis that you could play. But if you didn't play this one, this has some interesting things. It's not exactly the same as far as even how the feel is, or even the way the org goes. But in some ways, that kind of makes it interesting, saying that, okay, I could have a portable version of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but you can now in a bunch of collections that that's in. But also having this one of saying, like, hey, this is the other case of a unique experience you can have running it when it comes to the idea of that. And yeah, it's a fun one. There's another one that doesn't cost a whole lot of money on Game Gear, but also it's been collected in places as well, and presented by Sega as well. It is in Sonic Origins Plus, as mentioned, which is on all the systems, all the modern systems, and the PC. It's in Sonic Mega Collection Plus for Xbox, PlayStation 2, and PC. It is in Sonic Adventure DX on GameCube. That's also where Sonic Labyrinth is. Oh, right, I forgot. I didn't switch the game name on Twitch for this. Like, wait, we're playing Sonic Labyrinth now. I was like, no, we're not playing Sonic Labyrinth anymore. So, and it doesn't cost much. I think it's like $15, $20 on Game Gear if you want to get it that way. Or the Sega Master System version, which I know is a bit more. I know in Europe, I think it's cheaper in Europe than it is in the US. The US, it was the last game in the Sega Master System, which was not huge in the US compared to Europe. So it might go for a lot. And I know there's a very specific revision of the game where there's a sticker that was placed onto it because what they did is I think they ran out of stock for like US versions. They basically took the European version, and I believe it's a case where the Sega Master System version plays European and American games, which is a rarity as far as consoles at the time. They basically just put a sticker on the PAL version, or I guess the Europe version as far as the release in the US, and apparently if you find a copy of that with that sticker on it, it goes for like $10,000. Or as Derek Alexander of the I was gonna say SomecallmeJohnny show. Derek Alexander of the Stop Skeletons for Fighting show said, he said, quote, "It's just a sticker. Video game collecting is dumb." But it's also a case where it is kind of a unique story of saying that one sticker makes it worth tons and tons of money. Or as mentioned with Turok, we had Turok Air Origins coming out. There's a specific revision of Turok Rage Wars that was on Nintendo 64 where one thing about that game is it had some serious bugs in it, and I believe there was a way that gamers were able to get Acclaim to give them an updated copy that fixed them, and I think they sort of released it again. And the way you can tell what that version is there's a gray cartridge variant of it. Turok Rage Wars on Nintendo 64 is on a black cartridge normally, but those fixed versions were on a gray cartridge, and there were not many of those that they made. So it goes for tons and tons of money as far as for that very reason, as far as what that is. I know there's a gray card variant of Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, but I don't remember if there's anything different in terms of what's against those, and also for that matter, if we're changing the price or anything. But that's kind of the idea as far as that. Right. As far as also what I'll show is, right, since I said I was going to do this, we're going to load this game again. I'm going to go to Green Hill Zone Act 2. I'm going to run through this level really quick, and then we're going to go in the water. I want to see if Sonic can drown there. I think he might not be able to. And then we'll go as far as schedule and all that for the show, because it's going to be a bit of a shorter one. But I said, hey, let's do this. It's something nice and relaxing, especially at the end of the week. And he said, this is going to be our last Friday show for some time. I've had to do some Friday shows recently, but, speaking now, it's mostly Saturday, with a couple exceptions. But we'll let you know, as is always the case when it comes to that. In that case, I finished that level in 24 seconds, because you hold right when you do it, roll down that hill. You go off screen, and the game has to kind of rush to find you again. So in that case, you're all set. And you do get more of a time bonus for going through, including 40,000 points for that, as is the case. Alright, so that is our duology of Sonic Game Gear games. One that doesn't have a great reputation, but maybe isn't as bad as you think. And another one that has a pretty good reputation and is worth a look. And as I said, if you get Sonic Origins Plus, now it's better. It had problems when it came out. And I'm not going to get a shield. I want to see how this goes. I just want to see. I'll get the life, just because it's here. Now that I know it's here, I never did. So that's also the benefit of playing the game for the show. Let's get the crab meat here. He's dead. Alright, so Sonic, you sit there and wait. Okay, at that point, that's going to be the end of the show. As far as next time we come back to Sonic. Chad, I don't know what you think. do you have any cases of Sonic games you want to come back to? Either we haven't done, or maybe that we have done that we can justify another return to. I did say with Sonic 1, Genesis, we could do that again. I might use the version in this. In fact, I'm gonna use the version in this. Because it has some extra changes to the level layout that are unique for that release. I do want to show Sonic 3, because actually, technically we haven't played it. We played Sonic 3 and Knuckles, as far as the locked-on version. We haven't played each of those individually. So I think maybe it'd be interesting to play each of them individually. I also want to look at my schedule as far as this. Do I have anything of Sonic even on the line? I mean, I was thinking this year to... Okay, first off, he's not drowning. I'm gonna indicate that idea. Okay, so I got my answer as far as that. And since he's not drowning, then normally he would be going as far as this. I'm gonna go back to the game catalog. I'm gonna pull up some different music. I'm gonna pull up a game that is celebrating 30 years of itself this year of Sonic. And I think I might want to show this. Let's go to the museum. I'm going to go into sounds, because this collection has music from the games that are featured in this, as far as the main stuff, Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Sonic and Knuckles. It doesn't have the Game Gear stuff. They didn't have the Game Gear stuff when they added the Plus DLC, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't. And Sonic CD as well. But I'm going to go to some of the other games that they have that aren't this one in particular. They have music from Knuckles Chaotix from 32X, which I could do a second chance of when I configure my 32X. Actually, the way I'm going to figure 32X, I think we can get a Genesis Model 2, because I know it works on that as far as how it goes, and then use that as far as a separate case. Let's take something from Sonic 3D Blast, because that is celebrating 30 years this year. I want to try and maybe see if I can squeeze it in. Actually, let me also do one other thing. I'm going to turn this controller off. I'm going to turn the Pro Controller on. Because in that case, I also have access to the Y button, so I can basically do... Let me think about what I want to end on. Because there's a lot of really good music in this game. Final fight, good ending. Special stage, the boss music, invincibility, credits, menu. And the stuff for, I don't know, I could take the Knuckles Chaotix music again, but honestly, I think this one... And we played this on Saturn, but there's some differences enough on Genesis I think it justifies running this. Let's... There we go, Green Grove Zone Act 2. And I'll have Knuckles running around, because yeah, we didn't see much Knuckles tonight. We didn't see Tails. Actually, yeah, it was all Sonic tonight. It was not Tails. It's not Knuckles. It's nobody else as far as how that is. Okay, I'm gonna put that on... Oh, let's see. I think that's even a repeat. What do you think it is? Yeah, no shuffle. Wait, no, is that no shuffle or no repeat? I'll figure. It's a long piece of music. Yeah, I think I might want to come back to this one as far as to celebrate 30 years. Because that's the other thing. We sometimes look and see what... We celebrate an anniversary of a game if we can, and what that's necessarily going to look like, you know. Yeah, but I had a great time looking at this. Thank you so much to Lectors for the request as far as Sonic Labyrinth. But I also said, like, I always want to give you something a little more. In that case, I said, you know, I can do this. I can do Sonic 1 Game Gear even better than we did before. Not that we had a bad time doing it before, but still, I said, yeah, it's been a while. I said, yeah. Sometimes it's worth having a revisit. And I will also, by the way, put this into our Second Chance playlist. I know we did them all from last year's show, but I think at this point, now whenever we do Second Chances, which I know we're going to do a couple at some point, I'll have them in the playlist. I'll have the playlist link down below. I don't know if I have a whole lot of stuff in the link list for this show, which I guess is easy for the purpose of editing, but still a case of, either way. Sometimes that's the name of the game. You don't always get a case of having a massive link list every show. Sometimes you do. Appreciate when you do. Sometimes appreciate when you don't. That's kind of how we roll here on Super Old Game Saturday. Okay, so with that, it's not going to be Super Old Game Saturday by the time we're done as far as our Friday show, our last one for a while. So in that case, we can go into the schedule. Thank you so much for watching, just to indicate that, but let's talk schedule, because I do have more of an idea of what I'm doing for certain things, and also scheduling around. And some updates. I love the spinning legs as far as Knuckles. Absolutely. Yeah, it is a nice effect, and also because you're kind of just seeing here, seeing what are they doing with the sprite, as far as how they're doing the design on that. And sometimes the idea of, like, sitting around, seeing it, you see some of these animations, in particular I did, like, you've seen some of these things for so long, but just kind of then taking a look and just, I guess, having a focus, you appreciate that. But also if you hit left, or specifically, you also have that. There's Metal Sonic, there's Robotnik doing the juggling of the emeralds, there's Amy Rose from Sonic CD, there he is running as far as, there's Sonic doing it. Then there's Tails, he doesn't do it with his feet, he does it with his tail spinning. And there's Knuckles as well. It makes me smile. There you go. That's the thing. All these little things, sometimes they make you smile. Then maybe the idea of Sonic making you smile, or cases of a lot of stuff we do on the show being that way. Even just cases like, what am I looking at? And it sometimes goes well as far as that. All right, let's talk schedule. Next week, we are going to have a game that's kind of fitting with what we played tonight, because I mentioned Sonic Labyrinth is ex-members of Arc System Works. We have a game for our scoping sessions that we're doing, and also Tails is so darn cute. Let's take a look at Tails. There you go, perfect. Yeah, here he is. Remember, Tails is introduced in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The idea that he is best friend of Sonic, who initially is bullied as far as other creatures. Well, they sort of indicate that. But also the idea of saying, and there he is flying, because he has two tails. Maybe that's the idea, like he has two tails. It seems weird. But also the idea, he's always like the idea of what Sonic was about, saying like, he seems so cool and confident. It's like, I can follow him, but Sonic is saying like, you know what, I'll let him go along, tag along with me. And he becomes a good friend of him, especially when he realizes the technical side that Tails has. But also Tails getting a sense of doing stuff on his own, like with Tails Adventure, which was before he met Sonic. I guess the origin of where he became, the technician. And also in Sonic Adventure, where he says like, hey, you know what, I want to be the idea of like going on Sonic's way, but I also want to kind of do things my own way on top of that. Kind of balance those two things out as it is. And the idea that we remember these characters after so long, but is that this is how he looked when we first saw him in 1992, and it is a good case as far as seeing that. Alright, so yeah, next week for our scoping session, we're doing one of these a month, as we mentioned. That's going to be for a game from Arc System Works. As many ex-members of Arc System Works made Sonic Labyrinth. We're taking a look at BlazBlue Calamity Trigger. We're playing the PlayStation 3 version. It's actually the first PlayStation 3 game we're playing on the show. Every time we run PlayStation 3 on this program, I know it's going to go through the world. Let's let it go through the world. As you're hearing Rusty Roan's Zone Act 1. This is a good one, too. And there's a great bass going on as far as this music. But yeah, next week, we're going to BlazBlue Calamity Trigger. This is from Arc System Works. It was the first game in a fighting series that I know Electris is a fan of, and said that the story of this gets complicated enough, it almost makes the Kingdom Hearts games look like they make sense in terms of the plot. But I said, well, this is a game where there's a lot of story content. It's a fighting game, 2D fighting game. We've shown its sequel before, that being BlazBlue Continuum Shift. But I said, look at the first one. I said, well, how should we do this when we're going to tell the story of this? And he said, start with the first one. I think that might be the way to go. You kind of have to be set at the first one. I said, okay, we'll start with the first one. I said, it's our first PlayStation 3 game, because everything else we played on it has been a port of something, as is the case. But yeah, native PlayStation 3 next week for this one. So we do have a lot of nice anime flair. I'm also going to check the intro, see that I played on the side of caution when we previewed Continuum Shift, saying it's copywritten. I don't know if it is in this one. But having said that, we'll go some aspects of characters, including a lot of famous anime voice actors as well. And also a bunch of different characters like Ragnar the Blood Edge and Noelle Vermillion, which I know is Electris' favorite character, voiced by Christina V, who we're going to talk about. She, of course, is the voice of Shantae. And we'll go into more. I've got tons of voice actor discussions. Basically, the question on this scoping session, because Skies of Arcadia about a month ago was kind of an easy one, saying, all right, we basically play this game fully as far as what it is, but I want to show it. This one, you get endings for each character and story information as you go through. So I think the idea is we got to play with each character as far as going through the story, and I'm not that good at this game. I've played it a bit, but it's also something I haven't put tons and tons and tons of time into this. So I got to figure how that's going to go. But I said, I made Electris wait for this game for so long. And I think that's the other thing. I feel like some of these games, I know they go for long, but I also say, like, I don't want to put them in the back burner. I want to cover these. And so if we can cover it this way, this might be the way to go. And maybe we'll end up like Skies of Arcadia, where it said we can basically use that as part one of the game and we'll come back to it. And the idea that I had so much fun with Skies of Arcadia as an example, saying that I want to figure when I can come back to it. And that being, I guess, the question as far as. But as I said, it's going to be a bit of a loosey-goosey case of saying, let's take a look at it, get an overview of it. We'll have notes going into stuff about that. We'll celebrate the voice acting and the great graphics. And it's a great game as far as what I've played, just in case I'm not really good at it, so I have to get my skills ready as far as how it is. That's going to be our scoping session next week on February 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then a week after that, coming back to Yoshi's Island. We're finishing it fully. I still have to finish the extra level 6 or extra world 6 from the Super Nintendo game, but after that, it's going to be a full look at the Game Boy Advance version, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario Advance 3. We'll take a look at the new levels they added, all 6 of them, And we will also look at some greatest hits as far as other stages, look at some of the other bonuses they have, the Mario Brothers port in that, which we have not looked at yet when it's come to the Super Mario Advance games, and see what did they do to get that game on Game Boy Advance and take the tech that was doing with the Super FX 2 chip on Super Nintendo. They didn't know how to emulate that chip. They said, we're rebuilding this game from scratch. How did they rebuild it from scratch? How'd it look? Another case, I guess, of portable gaming this way, of thinking that if Sonic Labyrinth and Sonic 1 for Game Gear were taking the Game Gear and the idea of portable gaming in a different direction of saying, let's give you something that you don't get at home, Nintendo is then taking the case of saying the Game Boy Advance can run games from Super Nintendo, what that's going to look like, and also what is it going to be of seeing how that translation goes, and also what can it offer unique that was not in the console version that we know and love. And we'll get into instances of that. As we're also going to Springsteen. Basically go through every piece of music from Sonic 3D Blast except for Green Grove Zone Act 1. Or until I finish. Then week after that, as far as March, we're starting on March 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm doing the Scummy session first thing. I talked about Kingdom Hearts looking like it makes sense compared to BlazBlue Calamity Trigger. We're going back to Kingdom Hearts. It's been too long, and I've said I want to go back to Kingdom Hearts, but the next game in the franchise would not be Kingdom Hearts 2. I mean, I previewed it in the Switch to Chronicles show, but I said, if we're going to have this plot go, the actual next game after Kingdom Hearts 1 is Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. It came out on the Game Boy Advance, but we're not playing that version. We're playing Kingdom Hearts Re-Chain of Memories. That is on the PlayStation 2, but we're actually not playing that version either. We're playing the HD version that I have in the Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 collection for Xbox One. We're running through Series X this time, as it is. It's something different as far as how Kingdom Hearts works, because this one, as opposed to the first one, which is an action RPG, this one sort of is, but it's running on cards. Because the idea is that at the end of the first game, as we saw, remember, Sora, Goofy, and Donald were on the hunt for King Mickey. It's like, what's going on with that? And then we saw the letter from Pluto. It's like, wait a second, here's the King's insignia. We're going to start our perspective, like, what did that mean? And where does that take us? It takes us to a place where we have to be running cards for things as far as creating worlds, as far as getting items going, and doing attacks. These would do a deck build, as it is. I think it's the first deck building game we've ever played, but it's not like any other deck builder game I'm familiar with. It's unique, but it's also something a lot of people told me this is a bit of a contentious one, saying, how does it go? What's the feel of it? And in some ways, it's gonna be a little bit of a wheel-spinning case for certain things, as a game I know for length. This is gonna be a massive undertaking, because this is a game we have to run through in its entirety twice. And the reason for that is because there's a story for Sora, and also for Riku, who of course is in the first game, but he has his own aspect going on, like what's going on with him after the events of Kingdom Hearts 1. But we'll have our first look to see what are we doing. I do want to be set for that. And I don't want to not play it. And it was like, don't play that. Skip it. It's like, no, we're not skipping it. Ed, Wacky, Nicky, going back to them, they said, we couldn't beat this thing. We had enough. We said, we're just going to watch the story. Like, we're not going to watch the story, not for this one. There's games we have to watch the story for because their versions do not have ability to be shown on the show. Those being Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days on DS and Recoded, which is also on DS, which is why they have their cutscenes in that collection. But I said, okay, we're going to start our look. It's been a long time since Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts, I'm going to say this, the more I think about this, Kingdom Hearts is one of the most defining plays we had on Super Bowl Game Saturday. I would say, of the stuff in our early years, Metal Gear Solid 1 and Kingdom Hearts in particular, and Super Mario RPG as far as myself, those are probably the three plays that I think have meant the most to me, and the ones that made me realize, thanks to all of you in our Best John on Twitch, what is the direction the show has to go, and how far we've come over the years. Especially with that, Kingdom Hearts is a very sacred one to me for that very reason, based on everything Luck first went into when we played it, and just in general, what the experience that we had. So, we're coming back. And I'm looking forward to getting a sense of starting that as far as a scope, to see what that's about, and what are we really getting ourselves into, but we'll definitely get our way into it for sure. Then, a week after that, I have a bit of an announcement. Dolly Finn's next appearance on the show is going to be on, March 14th. We're going to be playing Looney Tunes B-Ball for the Super Nintendo. I've wanted to show this one off for a while. It is from Sunsoft and Acclaim, who published it. It was developed by Sculptured Software, the team who made the Mortal Kombat ports on Super Nintendo. And they made Monopoly for the NES and I think also Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. It is NBA Jam-like. Basically, it's what's the name? Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and a lot of other Looney Tunes characters going around arcade basketball, 2-on-2 arcade basketball. Yay! It is a great, I'm excited about this one too. But also the case that it's probably better for that one because, we want to have a second player going on, although that game also, like with the Super Bomberman games, it does have multi-tap support. You can play with 4 players. Although, because of the way we run Super Nintendo, I still have not looked into this as far as a general idea. Not that I have a multi-tap for Super Nintendo, but I don't know how the multi-tap goes when you're running S-Video, because you run S-Video on Super Nintendo, but the port that goes to that is the same port that goes for the multi-tap. Okay, let me rephrase that. It's the same one that goes for some multi-taps. The Super Multi-Tap that was made for Super Bomberman actually goes in the second controller slot, so actually that would be the way to run that one, as far as going that way. But that being said, I was going to say, if it was the other case, I'd have to get a splitter as far as, I think Nintendo made one officially, I think, as far as that. But run 2 players, don't have a problem with that. As I said, it is arcade basketball as far as like NBA Jam, but they have a Looney Tunes flair to it in the sense that as you go along and play, see gems come on the course, you get money. And with that money, you're able to use that to buy power-ups as you go along for a couple cents, depending on what it is. Some cases where you basically make a long-range shot, where you can cover most of the field, but you basically make a backcourt shot, mostly guaranteed depending on who you pick. Cases where you get a defense move that can destroy the opponents. Cases where if you have no specific button combination, not something like Mortal Kombat, you can basically have cases where when the ball gets free, it's a dog, pretty much. You basically press a button combination, have the dog come to you, and like the ball gets in your hands. Or you press other button combinations like, hey, I want to play as Bugs Bunny. My opponent always plays as Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Press a button combination, that being XAXA, whilst you're playing your Bugs Bunny for a little bit. And since every character has different stats as well, it actually is really interesting. There's a lot of neat things in that game, and it is an underrated one. I want to show that for a while. And we're going to show that on March 14th. Dollar Fin's going to be involved for that. And then a week after that, we're going to take a look. Actually, it's going to be mostly sports month, as it is in March. Take a look at Snowboard Kids for Nintendo 64. I've been wanting to look at this one, too. It is a snowboarding game from Atlas. I think it's the first Atlas game on the Nintendo 64. It was Ractim who published it, or developed it, I should say, not published it. It's a case of a bunch of kids who are in the Canadian Rockies. The one girl, the rich girl, Linda Maltini, she says, hey, you know what? I think we should have a tournament in order to decide who's the best of us all. And she puts it together by getting a cell phone. Because her father gives her a cell phone. I'm going on this because the manual has the story. And you go through races as far as it is. But it's like Mario Kart. So as far as like a snowboarding game, it's kind of unique what it's doing as far as how it controls, how it plays. And also, it is a pretty fun case as far as certain things with some of the power-ups you get as well. And even when you do laps. Because the idea in that game is that when you do laps, you get down to the bottom of the mountain, but then the idea is you have to go in the ski lift. But it's also a fight to get in the ski lift, and it's really cool. I don't know if I'll need more than one part for that one. I'll see. But, we'll do that on March 21st. So yeah, right as spring starts, and fitting because also that game has some stages that have no snow in it whatsoever, which is kind of hilarious. And then we got that, we're playing World Series Baseball for Sega Genesis. It's another Blue Sky game. We played Desert Demolition from them last year, and it is a unique one that I grew up playing, as I mentioned last week, for a reason that I was not expecting. My brother got the Batter Up, which is it was a peripheral where basically it's a baseball bat. It does work with that game. It works with really anything. So map the buttons as it is, but the C button for swinging is a case where it recognizes that for swinging. I don't have the accessory, but even without the accessory, it is a really fun and really interesting case of early baseball gaming. I want to get a sense of that. Then in April, we have our April Fool's Day show with Digimon Racing for Game Boy Advance. I don't know if it's a bad game, but also I've been asked for the idea of saying, like, people think, like, maybe it's a joke. I don't know, maybe it's something special. Maybe it's a narrated Diamond in the Rough, kind of like the case of maybe Sonic Labyrinth, the idea of it having defenders. What I've played so far, it seems like it's alright as far as that, but I do need to practice. And it's another one that's short, so depending on if it is short, I think I'll also toss some previews of a couple other Game Boy Advance kart racing games, specifically Mario Kart Super Circuit and Konami Crazy Racers. That's the idea there. And then as far as other stuff, I realize we haven't looked at Kirby in a while, and what Kirby game can I show? I know Lekford said hey, I want to have my Catharsis going on Kirby's Adventure for NES. I'm not ready for that one. So I said, what other Kirby game can I do? One we sort of showed, we previewed, but I said, I think it's time we come back and do this full show. Another sports game, actually, turns out, as it is. Except it's kind of golf, but it's also kind of billiards. It's Kirby's Dream Course for Super Nintendo. I think we can do that one in one show. It's a really unique one, and actually, believe it or not, it's the first Kirby game I've played. A weird one, you think, oh, I'd play the platforming games. Like, no, it was this one. It's got some unique things, and I'm definitely looking forward to showing that one. And then I think our scoping session, because spring is going to be in full bloom, let's get some flowers going on as far as that. We're going to take a look at Okami. I love this game. They're celebrating 20 years. You bet I'm going to be celebrating 20 years of that game this year. We're going to look at it on the PlayStation 2. I think we might use that for our play. I do have the Switch version, but there's some things that the PlayStation 2 version does that are pretty unique, and I do want to give some indications on those. As far as other stuff that month, don't know. I'm going to figure how that goes. Those are things I know now. And then in May, we're going to have our compilation show that's going to be on Memorial Day weekend. That's going to be on May 23rd. We're taking a look at Midway Arcade Treasures 3 for the GameCube. We're talking digital clips. We're looking at those Midway Arcade Treasures games. I promised many years ago when we started this perspective of having one of those each May, I said for the Midway Arcade Treasures games, we're going to look at one for each system. So the first one we did on the PlayStation 2, the second one we did on the Xbox, and last in the line is the GameCube as far as it. It's got problems as far as this collection, even though there's some really good games on this. There's some really weird games on this. But with only 9 games, technically sort of, maybe 8 depending on, because one of them is a enhanced version of Super Off-Road, which is amazing. I love Super Off-Road. I want to show that game very badly, so that's in of itself going to be a blast. But I said, I don't know if that's going to be enough. So I said I'm also going to mix the idea of a showcase with it. So I have a bunch of arcade ports and midways I'm going to toss in. Take a look at all the cruising games. We're going to take a look at Mortal Kombat 4. We're going to take a look at War Gods. We're going to take a look at Info Blitz. And Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey. I'll toss that in again. And then there are a couple other ones I have not mentioned. There's one other one I haven't mentioned that I do want to hold that one close to the chest. But the other ones I have mentioned enough. Like, okay, we'll go. But I think there's some other ones of midways. I'm trying to remember if there's some other one that I didn't indicate. But by the idea of giving that idea, you know. Because we sometimes talk that, and just when that collection came out, it was sometimes people question saying, wait a second, why did they not get some other games? And as we learned over the years, part of that had to do with the fact that emulating some of those games is really hard. In fact, I know Digital Clips, when they emulated Mortal Kombat 4 for the Mortal Kombat Arcade, or the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, I should say, from last year, they said, we had to do some really strange things in order to get that game running. And I guess in that case, they kind of had to figure that. And I guess then, I mean, think about this. It was the case where, what did emulation of classic games look like 21 years ago? It wasn't quite to the degree it is now. Not that it was awful, but and there's some really good cases of it being done really well. But nowadays, there have been a lot of advancements. Even a company like Digital Clips will tell you that. I know they will. But cases like, what do they do? How are they doing for emulation of certain things? Some being weird, but also some really good stuff, and also some really hilarious stuff. We're going to have a good time for that one, no question, with all that stuff. And then in June, the only thing I know I will indicate so far is Cool Spot for the Sega Genesis is going to be on June 20th. So yeah, we're starting off summer right. That is a great summer game. There's also Viewer Quest that month. That was on the perspective of AJ42 if you wanted to see that. Like, yeah, that's a great choice, and it's one of the best summer games around. And a case of taking a game that's based on a mascot of a food product, that being 7-Up, turning into something really cool. And so we're going to look into that for sure, and then the week after that, we're going to be off. But I'm talking with Christianer64 and Kazan22 and I think AJ42. I think the idea that those three have to be involved in this. I am going to have a off-screen show ready for you. It's going to be our preview of the setup for a scoping session we're going to do later in the year, that being Final Fantasy XIV. We're finally playing an MMO, massive multiplayer online RPG on the show, ladies and gentlemen. I am playing Final Fantasy XIV blind to start as a look. It is a case where the game is massive, and as Kazan22 said, if you play that game, you're playing that game the rest of your life as far as the show, which I said, maybe, but I said, I don't want to. Some people said maybe some of these games are too long. I said, I don't want to say no, we can't play these games, even if they're insanely long. Let's at least give a perspective. Look, they've mentioned, we played Shadow Hearts Covenant, every one of them as far as it, and also when we had, when Agent 42 was on the show about 2 months ago, they were talking about Final Fantasy 14. They love it. They breathe it. And so in that case, it's like, we got to do something with this. I think this might be the way to do it. That's going to be quite a collaboration just in general for that off-screen show and then the on-screen one. Basically, I'm setting up my account, and also because I'm doing off-screen, so in that case, I can add out sensitive information, but you also get some great hilarity going on with 4 of us as far as how it is. I think it's going to be the 4 of us. I think Agent 42 would want to be involved in that. I was sometimes like, I don't know if I'd have a whole lot to say. He'd have a lot to say on Final Fantasy 14. I know that for sure. They all would. And they're kind of the resident experts of that, so that's going to be the idea. And then other stuff. Let's see. Okay, just to indicate one thing. I know that Gemini96 said his next game is going to be Bloodborne for the PlayStation 4. He's thinking we're going to do that as a Halloween block entry. Dolly Finn, I'm going to try and see Better the Dolphin on Sega CD around October. I want to, because that could be like a hard case in a weird way. I'm figuring that. And then also, Gemini96 said as far as a one of the scoping sessions he called Tetris Effect Connected. And then I guess for our annual Tetris show, Dolly Finn, you and I talked about this. We're second chancing Tetris Attack. We did play it, but I think we can do it even more and even better as far as how, and enhanced tech. That's the other thing, because the way the tech of the show has gone over the years, we've come quite far, and I think in that case we gotta do it. And it's another case where 38 years of that game, or 31 if you count the Japanese release, but we gotta celebrate that. That's December as far as our annual Tetris show, but outside of that, that's everything I got so far. I mean, some of the stuff can change, some of the stuff I know is far out as far as it, but also cases where it's not been an easy case sometimes figuring out what's the schedule looking like. You'd be surprised, even last week I said I wasn't sure what I was doing in March. Like, what's the order that's going to be? What can I be set for? Which case where, I'll not lie here, the scoping sessions, I'm kind of taking the advantage of the fact that I don't have to practice them and I'm taking notes. Yes, absolutely taking notes. But still saying that I don't have to prep for those quite the same way. I was like, we will, of course, when we get to them fully, as much as we can go fully for some of those things. But in that case, what's that going to look like? What can we be ready for? What are we going to be set as far as this and that and all these other things? And so that's kind of what that's looking like. But also, as I said, what am I going to do as far as viewer requests? Because I want to provide the viewer requests. Thank all of you for joining us on this journey every week as far as how it is. And thank you so much for that. Great. Thank you so much, Dolly Finn, as well for that. So we do have a great case as far as the future looking bright, as far as some of the shows we've got. And I'm looking forward for sure to that. I had a fun show. Good night to you as far as the cute doggy. Thank you so much, Dolly Finn. Thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you again to Lectors for the requests for tonight. And in that case, hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend starting. Maybe extend it for you, as in my case. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of this weekend, and a great week coming forward next week. I'll see you next Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our scoping session of BlazBlue Calamity Trigger for the PlayStation 3. Till then, keeping awesome and a wonderful night, everybody. Take care.